On Christmas night, in front of 25 relatives, my parents handed my sister the keys to a brand new $65,000 Range Rover. They handed me a red envelope with a $2 lottery ticket inside. Melissa squealed and jumped into our father's arms while camera flashes exploded around her. I stood there holding that thin envelope, feeling the weight of what wasn't inside. My mother's voice cut through the applause. "Who knows, Ashley? Maybe luck will find you." Melissa laughed first. Maybe she'll win enough for a bus pass. Then everyone laughed. 25 people, all of them laughing, and I was the punchline. 3 days later, I won $250 million. But money wasn't what changed everything. It was the 69 missed calls on my phone and what those calls revealed about the people I'd called family for 34 years. Before I tell you this story, if you find it compelling, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely want to come along for this ride. And let me know where you're watching from, what time it is there. I always love knowing where my new friends are tuning in from around the world. Now, let me take you back to that Christmas Eve. The night I finally stopped waiting to be seen. I'm Ashley Whitfield, 34 years old, Senior Program Manager at Google, where I coordinate infrastructure projects that affect millions of users. The kind of work that keeps systems running so smoothly that no one ever notices, which, when I think about it, pretty much describes my entire life. The drive from San Jose to Sacramento takes about 3 hours on a good day. Christmas Eve traffic made it closer to 4. I didn't mind. The silence in my car felt safer than what waited at the other end. I had spent the last 2 months knitting scarves for everyone in my family, 12 scarves, each one personalized. My father's in deep burgundy because that's his favorite color, even though he's never said it out loud. Melissa's in cream and gold because she likes things that look expensive. My mother's in soft blue because she used to wear that color before she stopped wearing anything that might draw attention. I passed the gas station on Highway 99 around 7 in the evening. A billboard towered over the pumps. Mega Millions jackpot. $250 million. I remember thinking, I've never been the lucky one. That thought would come back to haunt me in the best possible way. Every Christmas at the Whitfield house followed the same script. Dad held court in his leather recliner, dispensing opinions like a king granting audiences. Mom fluttered around managing everything and everyone while pretending she wasn't. Melissa arrived early to help, which really meant arriving early to receive praise for helping, and I showed up exactly on time, carrying carefully chosen gifts that would be opened without comment and forgotten by New Year's. I pulled into the driveway at 6:15. My Honda Civic, 10 years old and paid off, looked small next to the luxury cars already parked there. Melissa's BMW, Derek's Mercedes, Aunt Patricia's Lexus. I grabbed my bag of wrapped scarves and walked toward the house. Christmas lights covered every surface, blinking in competitive synchronization with the neighbors. My mother opened the door before I could knock. Her eyes flicked to my bag, then away, finding nothing worth lingering on. "Oh, good. You made it. Melissa's been here since noon helping me cook." No hug. No, I missed you. Just acknowledgement that I had successfully traveled from one point to another. "The traffic wasn't bad," I offered. She was already walking away. "Put your things in the guest room. We need help with the table." The living room buzzed with relatives I saw once a year and recognized less each time. Aunts and uncles and cousins twice removed, all orbiting around the center of gravity that was my sister and her husband. Melissa stood in the kitchen doorway, wearing a designer dress that cost more than my monthly rent, surrounded by admiring women. Derek had his arm around her waist, and they looked like a catalog photo for expensive happiness. When Melissa spotted me, her face arranged itself into sisterly delight. "Oh, Ash, you actually came. The actually hung in the air between us." "I always come," I said. But she had already turned back to her audience, and Derek was explaining something about his fintech company, using words like disruption and scalability and guaranteed returns. My father sat in his recliner, holding court with Derek and 2 of my uncles. I caught fragments of their conversation as I passed. "This kid's going to make us all rich," Dad was saying. "Smart investment. Best decision I ever made. I filed that away. Something about the certainty in his voice felt wrong. My father had spent his entire career selling used cars. He knew how to make bad deals sound like opportunities. He just didn't know how to recognize when someone was doing the same thing to him. I was arranging crackers on a cheese plate when Aunt Patricia found me in the kitchen. She had that look relatives get when they're about to ask something uncomfortable. "And, Ashley, what about you? Still renting? I have an apartment in San Jose, near work." "Oh," she said, loading that single syllable with every judgment she couldn't say out loud. "That's practical." Before I could respond, she spotted someone more interesting and drifted away. I finished the cheese plate alone. That's when I heard them. My father and Derek, talking in the hallway just outside the kitchen door. They didn't know I was there. "So the returns are guaranteed?" my father asked. 20% annually, Derek answered. Minimum. "But we need to move fast. I already gave you 200. The house is leveraged to the limit." "I know, but there's an opportunity. If we can get another 100,000, George, I don't have it. Unless what? Let me think. There might be a way." My hands stopped moving over the crackers. Leveraged to the limit. I knew what that meant. My father had taken out a reverse mortgage on the family home. He had bet their entire retirement on Derek's company. My mother appeared in the kitchen doorway. "Ashley, did you finish the cheese plate?" "Almost." "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Not now, honey. We're about to do gifts." The gift ceremony happened the same way every year. Everyone gathered in the living room. Dad stood by the Christmas tree and made a speech about family and gratitude. Then presents were distributed according to some hierarchy I had never been able to decode. But this year felt different. The energy in the room had a sharp edge, an anticipation I couldn't name. "Before we eat," my father announced, tapping his wine glass, "Patricia and I want to take a moment to celebrate our family." He smiled the smile I'd seen him use on customers my whole life, the one that promised things he might not deliver. This year has been incredible. Derek's company is thriving. Melissa and Derek bought their dream home, and we wanted to show our appreciation for everything they've accomplished. I noticed he said they, not we. I noticed he didn't mention me at all. "Melissa, sweetheart, come here." My sister glided forward, already tearful, already performing the surprise she clearly knew was coming. My mother handed her a small velvet box. Inside were car keys. In the driveway, my father said, his voice swelling with pride, "There's a brand new Range Rover, $65,000, for our golden girl." The room erupted. Applause, gasps, cameras appeared from purses and pockets. Melissa threw herself into our parents' arms, sobbing beautifully. Derek beamed like a man who had just closed a deal, which I realized he probably had. 25 people celebrated while I stood at the edge, holding a cheese plate no one had touched. Then my father's voice shifted. "And for Ashley." The room went quiet. Not excited quiet. Awkward quiet. My mother held out a red envelope. Standard Christmas card size. Thin. I set down the cheese plate and walked forward. Every step felt like wading through water. I took the envelope, opened it. A single lottery ticket fell into my palm. Mega Millions. $2. My mother's voice carried across the room, sweet as antifreeze. "Who knows? Maybe luck will find you, Ashley." My father chuckled. That's about right for her situation. Derek leaned back in his chair, smirking. "Luck's a long shot when you don't have the brains to back it up." Melissa covered her mouth, giggling. "Maybe she'll win enough for a bus pass." Laughter. 25 people laughing. My face burned. But somewhere deeper, something else was happening. Something cracking. Something breaking free. I looked at the ticket in my hand, looked at my parents, looked at the room full of people who saw nothing wrong with this moment. And I smiled. "Thank you," I said. "I'm sure this is exactly what I deserve." No one caught the edge in my voice. They never do. A thin voice cut through the fading laughter. "That's enough." Everyone turned. On a side table, propped up and forgotten, an iPad showed my grandmother Eleanor's face. She was joining by video call from her nursing home, and until that moment no one had paid her any attention. She was supposed to be background noise, a token gesture toward inclusion. But Eleanor Mitchell had never been background noise in her life. "George, Patricia," she said, her voice trembling with effort. "This is not how we raised you." My father's smile tightened. "Mother, please. It's just a joke." "It's not a joke. It's never been a joke." My mother was already moving toward the iPad. "Mom, you're tired. The nurse said you need rest." "I'm not tired," Eleanor said. "I'm ashamed." But Karen had already picked up the device. "We'll call you tomorrow. Merry Christmas." She reached for the button to end the call. In that last moment before the screen went dark, my grandmother's eyes found mine. Her lips moved, forming words I couldn't quite catch. It looked like the box. Remember the box? Then she was gone, and the room exhaled, and everyone moved toward the dining room like nothing had happened. But something had happened. I just didn't understand what yet. Dinner passed in a blur of small talk and forced cheer. I ate without tasting. Watched my family toast Derek's brilliant business mind. Watched Melissa post Instagram stories from her new car. Watched my mother pretend the gift ceremony had been perfectly normal. Watched my father avoid looking at me even once. By 9 o'clock I couldn't take any more. I hugged my mother at the door because that's what daughters do. Karen held me briefly, her arms stiff. "Drive safe. Text when you're home." My father didn't get up from his chair. "Merry Christmas, Ashley." "Merry Christmas, Dad." I walked to my car, the old Honda, 10 years old, paid off. I looked back at the house, blazing with Christmas lights, at Melissa's new Range Rover gleaming in the driveway, at everything I had never been given and everything I had stopped expecting. Then I got in my car and drove away. I stopped for gas at the same station on Highway 99. 11:43 at night, Christmas turning into the day after Christmas, and I was standing under fluorescent lights holding a $2 lottery ticket. Maybe luck will find you. My mother's voice echoed in my head. I pulled out my phone, opened the lottery app, scanned the ticket. The screen loaded. My breath stopped. The numbers appeared, one by one, all 6 of them, matching. At the bottom of the screen, 2 words flashed in gold. Jackpot winner, $250 million. I read it again, and again. My hands began to shake. And somewhere in Sacramento, my phone was about to start ringing. I stood in that gas station parking lot for 17 minutes. I know because I watched the clock on my phone tick forward while the rest of my body refused to move. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A truck pulled in, filled up, pulled away. The driver glanced at me sitting on the cold concrete beside my car and looked away. Just another woman having a bad night. He had no idea he was looking at someone holding a $250 million lottery ticket. 7, 14, 21, 35, 42, Megaball 9. I read the numbers out loud, whispering them to no one. Checked the ticket, checked the screen, checked the ticket again. All 6 numbers matched. Jackpot, $250 million. My hands trembled so violently I dropped the phone. The screen cracked against the pavement, but when I picked it up, the numbers were still there. Still matching. Still impossible. I tried to breathe and couldn't. Tried to stand and couldn't. Tried to think and found only static. The first coherent thought that broke through wasn't "I'm rich" or "I won." The first thought was, they gave me this ticket to humiliate me. The second thought was, and it's worth $250 million. Something between a laugh and a sob escaped my throat. I sat there until my legs stopped shaking. Then I got in my car and drove home. The drive back to San Jose should have taken 3 hours. I don't remember most of it. My hands gripped the steering wheel at 10 and 2, knuckles white, while my mind raced through implications I couldn't fully grasp. $250 million. Before taxes, that's what the jackpot said. After federal and state taxes, maybe $160 million. $160 million. I'm a program manager. I work with numbers every day. I build spreadsheets and calculate timelines and manage budgets in the millions. But these numbers didn't compute. They existed in some other reality, one where a $2 lottery ticket given as an insult becomes the largest windfall of a person's life. I kept seeing Melissa's face, the way she laughed. Maybe she'll win enough for a bus pass. Derek's smirk. Luck's a long shot when you don't have the brains to back it up. My mother's sweet poison voice. Who knows? Maybe luck will find you. They meant it as a joke, a way to remind me of my place. The successful daughter gets a $65,000 car. The disappointing daughter gets a $2 lottery ticket. Everyone laughs. Everyone knows the score. Except the score just changed. By the time I reached my apartment in San Jose, something had crystallized in my mind. I would not tell them. Not yet. Not until I understood what this meant. Not until I had a plan. They had 34 years to see me. They could wait a little longer. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and started researching. Lottery winners. What happens to them? The statistics were terrifying. 70% of lottery winners go broke within 5 years. Not 7%, 70%. I read story after story. Family lawsuits, estranged relatives appearing with their hands out, friends turning into strangers, strangers turning into threats. One article was titled, "The Lottery Curse: Why Winning Ruins Lives." Another detailed a winner who was murdered by his own brother for the inheritance. A woman in Florida lost everything to a financial advisor who turned out to be running a Ponzi scheme. The phrase Ponzi scheme made me think of Derek and his guaranteed 20% returns. I pushed that thought aside. One crisis at a time, I made lists, created spreadsheets. This is what I do when the world feels out of control. I organize it into rows and columns until it makes sense. First priority, secure the ticket. I signed the back immediately, my name in permanent ink. Took photos from multiple angles. Stored the original in the fireproof safe I'd bought 2 years ago for important documents. Made 3 copies and hid them in different locations. Paranoid maybe, but I had seen what happens when you trust the wrong people. I had been seeing it my whole life. December 26th passed in a haze of research and planning. I called in sick to work, my first sick day in 2 years. Spent the entire day learning about trusts and LLCs and asset protection strategies. Somewhere around noon, my phone started buzzing. Melissa's name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. It buzzed again. Mom. Voicemail. Again. Dad. Voicemail. The pattern continued throughout the day, each call a small earthquake I refused to acknowledge. By evening, I had 17 missed calls. I didn't listen to any of the messages. Not yet. I wasn't ready to hear their voices. December 27th brought more calls, and a development I had been dreading. I was making coffee when the morning news came on. California lottery officials confirmed the $250 million winner purchased their ticket at a Speedy gas station on Highway 99. The ticket was bought on Christmas night between 11:30 and midnight. Officials are encouraging the winner to come forward. I stared at the television. They knew where the ticket was purchased. They knew what time. Anyone who knew my travel route could put the pieces together. And Melissa, I remembered with a sinking feeling, had always been good at puzzles when the prize was worth winning. I returned to work on December 28th. The Google campus felt like a sanctuary, a place where I was valued for what I could do rather than dismissed for who I was. I badged in at 7:15 before most of my colleagues arrived. My desk was exactly as I'd left it. Dual monitors showing project dashboards. No family photos, just pictures of landscapes I'd visited on solo trips. Mountains and oceans and forests where no one knew my name or my history. I had a critical milestone review that afternoon. The infrastructure project I'd been leading for 8 months was entering its final phase. 200 engineers depending on my coordination. 100 million users who would never know my name but would notice immediately if I failed. For 3 hours, I lost myself in spreadsheets and timelines and risk assessments. This was where I belonged. This was where I mattered. Marcus Chen found me in the break room around 11. He was my mentor, the senior director who had hired me 6 years ago and promoted me twice since then. A man who had never once called my work secretary stuff, or suggested I was just pushing papers. He studied my face with the careful attention that made him such a good leader. "You look different today," he said. "Different how?" "I don't know. Like you're carrying something heavy, or like you just put something heavy down." I forced a smile. "Just tired. Holiday travel." He didn't look convinced, but he didn't push. "The milestone review is at 2. You ready?" "Always," I said. He nodded and started to walk away, then paused at the door. "Whatever it is, you know you can talk to me." I nodded. But I couldn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The meeting went flawlessly. 3 hours of detailed technical discussion, and I delivered every chart, every metric, every contingency plan without a single stumble. The VP of engineering called my work outstanding. The team applauded. I accepted the praise with practiced modesty while thinking about the lottery ticket locked in my safe at home. The contrast was dizzying. Here, I was essential, respected, seen. At my parents' house, I was an afterthought, a punchline, a $2 joke. During a brief break, I slipped into a quiet corner of the cafeteria, pulled out my phone, opened the lottery app. The numbers were still there, still matching, $250 million. Not a dream. Not a glitch. The TV mounted in the break room was showing news coverage of the lottery winner. My coworkers gathered around it, joking about what they would do with that kind of money. "Buy an island," one said. "Never work again," another laughed. "What about you, Ashley? What would you do?" I shrugged. "Pay off my student loans, probably." Everyone laughed. So relatable. So normal. No one suspected that the lottery winner was standing 3 feet away, holding a phone that proved everything they were speculating about. That evening, I finally listened to the voicemails. 23 missed calls, 15 text messages, 7 voicemails, all from family. I sat on my couch in the dark and pressed play. Melissa, December 26th, cheerful and fishing. "Hey Ash, did you see the news? Some lucky person won the lottery at that gas station on 99. Wouldn't it be wild if... Anyway, call me. Miss you." She had never said miss you to me before. Ever. Melissa, December 27th, more direct. "Okay, so I was thinking, you drove home Christmas night, right? Did you stop at any gas stations? Just curious. Call me back. My father, December 27th, demanding as always. Ashley, it's your father. Call me back. We need to discuss something important. No, please, no when you get a chance, just orders. My mother, December 28th, attempting concern. Honey, are you okay? You haven't answered anyone's calls. We're worried about you. Please call. First time she had used the word worried about me in years. Melissa, December 28th, desperation creeping in. Ashley, I know you stopped at that gas station. I checked the traffic cameras from Dad's dashcam footage. You were there at 11:43. Please call me. This is important. For the family. My blood went cold. Dashcam footage. She had actually checked dashcam footage. Then came Derek's voice, smooth and calculated. "Hey, Ashley, it's Derek. Listen, I know we haven't always been close, but I want you to know that family sticks together. I have some connections in financial planning. If you ever need advice on, managing a windfall, I'm here." The word windfall told me everything. He knew, or he strongly suspected, and he was already positioning himself. The final voicemail was Melissa again, all pretense gone. "Why aren't you answering?" "This isn't funny, Ashley. If you have something that belongs to this family, you need to share it. That's what families do. Call me back, something that belongs to this family. A $2 lottery ticket given as an insult. Now it belonged to the family." I sat in the dark for a long time after the voicemails ended. Phone silent, but screen lighting up every few minutes with new calls I refused to answer. Melissa, Dad, Mom, Derek, Melissa, Melissa, Melissa. For 34 years, I had been invisible. My successes dismissed, my presence tolerated, My value measured at $2. Now they wanted to talk about family. Now they wanted to discuss what belonged to them. I thought about what I could do. I could answer. Smooth things over. Share the money like a good daughter, a good sister, a good family member. That's what the old Ashley would have done. But the old Ashley had died somewhere between the living room and the gas station on Highway 99. The new Ashley was going to do something different. I picked up my phone and scrolled to a different contact. Eleanor Whitfield, my grandmother at the nursing home. It was late, but I knew she kept odd hours. The call went to voicemail. Her voice, thin but sharp. "You've reached Eleanor Whitfield. Leave a message if it's worth my time." I smiled despite everything. "Grandma, it's me. I need to see you. I have something to tell you. Something big. I'll come tomorrow. I love you." The next morning, I drove to the California Lottery headquarters. My lawyer met me in the parking lot. I had hired her the day before, a woman named Rebecca Chen who specialized in asset protection and had no connection to anyone in my family. "This is unusual," she said as we walked toward the entrance. "Most winners wait weeks before claiming. I don't have weeks. My family already suspects. Better to control the narrative than let them create their own." The claim process took 3 hours. Verification, paperwork, tax discussions, identity confirmation. At the end, an official looked at me with something like sympathy. "Would you like to remain anonymous? California allows winners to request privacy." I considered it. In some states, anonymity isn't an option. Here, I could hide. I could take the money and disappear and never face my family's reaction. But I thought about Melissa checking dashcam footage, about Derek positioning himself as a financial advisor, about my parents who had already decided the money belonged to them. They would find out eventually. They would come for me eventually. Better to face it head on. "No," I said, "make it public." The official looked surprised. "Are you sure?" "Most people—" "I'm sure. I want everyone to know exactly who won." By noon, the California Lottery had issued a press release. Ashley Whitfield, 34, San Jose resident, claims $250 million Mega Millions jackpot. They used my professional headshot from Google, the one where I look competent and serious and nothing like the invisible daughter my family had always seen. By 12:15, it was on every news site in California. By 12:30, national news had picked it up. I was driving to the nursing home to see Eleanor when my phone exploded. I pulled over and looked at the screen. 47 missed calls from Melissa, 15 from my father, 6 from my mother, and 1 text from Derek. "We need to meet. I have information about your family you don't know. Information that could destroy them or save them. Your choice. Tomorrow, noon. Cafe Strata in Berkeley. Come alone." I stared at the message. He wasn't asking for money anymore. He was threatening. What did he know that I didn't? What leverage did he think he had? I pulled back onto the road and continued toward the nursing home. Whatever Derek had to say could wait. Right now, I needed to see the one person who had seen me before I was worth $250 million. The one person who had tried to speak up at Christmas when no one else would. The one person who had mouthed something about a box and told me to remember. I was about to find out what she meant, and it was going to change everything I thought I knew about my family. The nursing home smelled like antiseptic and artificial flowers. I walked through corridors painted in colors meant to be cheerful but only managed to look tired. Sunrise Senior Living. The name promised something it couldn't deliver. Residents sat in wheelchairs along the hallways, parked like forgotten luggage. Staff members rushed past without making eye contact. This was where my family had put Eleanor. This was where they expected her to spend her final years. I found room 114 at the end of a long hallway. The door was slightly open. Inside, my grandmother sat in her wheelchair facing a small window that overlooked the parking lot. She looked thinner than she had at Christmas, frailer, but when she turned at the sound of my footsteps, her eyes were sharp as ever. "I wondered when you'd come," she said. Her voice was thin, but carried the same steel I remembered from childhood. I pulled a chair close and sat beside her. "You know, don't you?" "I saw the news," she said. They showed your photo. You looked peaceful. I don't feel peaceful. That's because you're still carrying their expectations. Put them down, child. They were never yours to carry. Eleanor reached for my hand. Her fingers were cold and bony, but her grip was surprisingly strong. They'll come for you now, she said. All of them. With their hands out and their excuses ready, they already have. 69 missed calls. She laughed, a dry sound like leaves scraping pavement. Only 69, give it time. Then her expression shifted, becoming serious. Your grandfather left you something. Did you get my message? About the box? I saw you mouth something on the video call, I said. But Mom cut the connection before I could understand. Of course she did. Eleanor's lips pressed into a thin line. Karen has always been good at silencing inconvenient truths. Come back tomorrow. I'll have it ready. Harold wanted you to have it. Only you. Harold, my grandfather. He had died 10 years ago when I was 24. I remembered him as a quiet man with rough hands who taught me how to plant tomatoes and never once made me feel invisible. What is it? I asked. What did he leave me? Tomorrow, Eleanor said. Some things need proper time. For now, just know that he saw you, Ashley. He always saw you, even when no one else did. Her hand squeezed mine, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. The warmth of being recognized, of being known. I sat in my car in the nursing home parking lot for almost an hour, working through the voicemails I had been avoiding. 69 messages. I organized them chronologically, listening to my family's transformation from curious to suspicious to desperate to entitled. The early messages were fishing expeditions. Melissa on December 26th, voice bright and casual. Hey Ash, did you see the news about that lottery winner? Crazy, right? My mother on the same day, tentative. Hope you got home safe, honey. My father, brief and dismissive. Call when you can. By December 27th, the tone had shifted. Melissa again, this time probing. So I was calculating drive times. You would have passed that gas station around 11:45, right? Derek, smooth as oil. Hey, just reaching out. Family should stay connected. My father, irritated now. Why aren't you answering your phone? Then came December 28th, after Melissa discovered the dash cam footage. Her voice had turned electric with certainty. I knew it. I knew you stopped there. Ashley, call me right now. My mother crying, please, honey, we just want to talk. My father, cold as a closing door. This isn't a game. You owe us a conversation. After the public announcement, their messages became something else entirely. Melissa, furious. How dare you go public without telling us first? We're your family, my father calculating. We need to discuss how this affects everyone, not just you. Derek, barely containing his greed. Ashley, let's be smart about this. I have financial expertise. We should partner. One voicemail stood out from all the others. Melissa, December 28th, late evening. She must not have realized the recording was still going when she started talking to someone in the background. I heard Derek's voice first. She can't keep it all. That's not how family works. Your parents invested in us. She owes them. Then Melissa, confident and dismissive. I know. Don't worry. She's always been a pushover. She'll share. Derek again, urgent now. She better. We need that money. The company needs that money. Your dad needs... The message cut off. I played it 3 times. She's always been a pushover. The words burned, but they also clarified something I had suspected for years. They didn't want to reconnect. They wanted to collect. I was not a person to them. I was a resource. A problem to be managed. An obstacle between them and what they believed they deserved. I screenshot the voicemail timestamp and saved it to a folder I labeled Evidence. Then I drove home and slept better than I had in days. There's a strange peace that comes from finally understanding where you stand. December 30th started like any other workday. I arrived at Google before 8, badged through security, walked to my desk through corridors that felt more like home than my parents' house ever had. But today the whispers were louder. The glances lingered longer. News had spread. Ashley Whitfield, lottery winner, works at Google. I felt eyes on me everywhere I went. Some people avoided me, suddenly awkward, not knowing what to say. Others who had never spoken to me before were suddenly warm, suddenly interested, suddenly eager to be friends. I noted who fell into which category, filed it away for later. Marcus found me in the break room around 10, pouring coffee I didn't really need. He looked at me the way he always did, with attention and respect, and said nothing about the lottery. "Milestone review prep," he said. "Conference room B. 20 minutes. I'll be there." He paused at the door and turned back. "For what it's worth, I always knew you'd end up with more than most people. I just thought it would be from the IPO, not mega millions." It was the first time I'd genuinely smiled in days. "But if you're staying," he continued, "I need your head in the game. These servers won't deploy themselves. My head's in the game. Good." That's the Ashley I hired. He left without asking for money, without awkwardness, without any of the grasping need I'd been drowning in from my family. This is what respect looks like, I thought. This is what it feels like to be valued for what you do instead of what you have. I was heading to lunch at 11:47 when I heard my name, not from a colleague. The voice came from the security desk near the lobby. I looked over and saw her. Melissa. Standing there in a designer coat and high heels, arguing with the guard. "I'm her sister," Melissa insisted. "She'll want to see me. Just call her." "Ma'am," the guard said, patient but firm, "I can't let you past without authorization." Then Melissa spotted me across the lobby. Her face transformed. "Ashley!" Every head turned. I felt the weight of dozens of eyes. For a moment I considered walking away, taking a different exit, avoiding this confrontation entirely. But that's what the old Ashley would have done. I walked forward, face neutral. "It's okay. I know her." The guard looked at me. "You sure?" "Unfortunately." Melissa's smile flickered at the word. I led her to a seating area near the lobby entrance, public enough for witnesses, private enough for conversation. Melissa sat down, crossed her legs, and arranged her face into an expression of wounded sisterhood. "You've been ignoring my calls. I've been busy. Too busy for family? Apparently not," I said. "You're here." She leaned forward, and I watched her shift tactics in real time. The way her voice softened, the way her eyes widened. "Look, I know things have been complicated between us. But this is a chance to bring us all together. Mom and Dad are struggling. Derek's company hit a rough patch. We could use help." "Help," I repeated. "Financial help," she clarified. "A loan, an investment, whatever you want to call it. How much?" She blinked, surprised by my directness. "Well, Derek's company needs about $2 million to get through this quarter. And Mom and Dad's mortgage situation?" "What mortgage situation?" Something flickered in her eyes. Calculation behind the sisterly mask. "You don't know?" "Dad took out a reverse mortgage, invested in Derek's company. If the company fails, they lose the house." I kept my face blank even though I already knew this. I had overheard them on Christmas Eve. When did this happen? Months ago. Before Christmas. "And you're just telling me now?" Melissa's voice hardened. "I'm telling you now because you can fix it now." I stood up, and Melissa's expression shifted to alarm. "Let me make sure I understand," I said. "You want me to bail out Derek's company, a company I know nothing about, and save Dad from his own bad investment. Using money from a lottery ticket you laughed at me for receiving." "That was a joke," she said quickly. "You know that was a joke." "Jokes are funny, Melissa. That wasn't funny. It was a message. And I received it." Her mask cracked. "You're really going to hold a grudge over a stupid lottery ticket?" "I'm not holding a grudge. I'm holding a boundary." "A boundary?" She laughed, high and brittle. "You've never had boundaries in your life. You've always just taken it. Whatever we gave you, whatever scraps. You smiled and said thank you. The words hit exactly where she intended. But I didn't flinch. You're right, I said. I did. For 34 years. I'm done. Her voice dropped. Ashley, I'm pregnant. The words hung between us. 12 weeks. I just found out. Derek doesn't even know yet. I searched her face for manipulation. Found fear underneath. Real fear. Congratulations, I said, and meant it. I can't raise a baby if we're bankrupt, she continued. I can't lose my house. I can't. Her voice cracked. First real emotion. I softened slightly. I'm sorry you're scared, but I can't write a check to make your problems disappear. That's not help. That's enabling. That's what family does, she insisted. No, Melissa, that's what I used to do. That's over now. A security guard approached. Everything okay here? My sister was just leaving. Melissa stood, grabbing her purse. You're going to regret this. You can't just abandon us. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm just not rescuing everyone either. She walked toward the exit, then turned back for one final shot. Dad's coming to see you. Tonight. He's already on his way. Then I'll be ready. You think you're strong now? You think money makes you powerful? It doesn't. It just makes you a target. She pushed through the glass doors and disappeared. I returned to my desk, sat down, and opened my project dashboard. Milestone review in 45 minutes. I had a job to do. The meeting went perfectly. 3 hours of technical discussion, problem-solving, strategic planning. I was in my element, and everyone knew it. The VP of Infrastructure praised my contingency planning. Engineers deferred to my expertise. No one in that room had ever called my work glorified secretary. No one had ever handed me a $2 lottery ticket as a joke. By 6:30, the building was emptying out. I walked to my car in the parking garage, checking my phone. One new text from an unknown number. I'm outside your apartment. We need to talk. Dad. I sat in my car for 5 minutes, breathing, centering myself. Then I drove home to face him. George Whitfield stood outside my apartment building looking smaller than I remembered. Older, grayer. His shoulders hunched against the evening chill. This was not the commanding patriarch from Christmas. This was a man who had run out of options. Dad, I said as I approached. Ashley. He didn't move to hug me, neither did I. How'd you get my address? Your mother had it. Emergency contact forms. I unlocked the building door and gestured him inside. He looked around my apartment with an expression I couldn't read. Small, clean, tasteful. Not the home of someone struggling. Nice place, he said finally. Thank you. I've never been here before. No, you haven't. He sat on my couch without being invited. I'm not going to waste your time. You know why I'm here. Tell me anyway. I made some investments. They didn't pan out. I used the house as collateral. If I don't come up with money soon, your mother and I lose everything. How much? $200,000 would clear the immediate debt. Another $100 for buffer, $300,000. You have $250 million. I have $160 million after taxes. And it's mine, not the family's. His jaw tightened. I raised you, fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head. You did, and I'm grateful. But gratitude isn't a credit line. What happened to you, Ashley? You used to be so agreeable. I grew up. Agreeable is just another word for invisible. He had no response to that. I let the silence stretch before I spoke again. Dad, can I ask you something? He nodded, wary. When you invested in Derek's company, did you do any due diligence? Silence. Did you look at his financials, his business model, his track record? Derek's family. Family trusts family. Derek promised you 20% returns. Guaranteed. Did that sound realistic to you? His face shifted. Defensive. How do you know about that? I overheard you. Christmas Eve, in the hallway. That was a private conversation. In a house full of people. Nothing's private when you don't bother to close the door. What are you getting at? I leaned forward. I'm getting at the fact that you bet your retirement on a company you didn't research, run by a man you don't really know because he promised you easy money, and now you want me to fix it. What do you actually know about Derek's company, Dad? I know enough. Do you know he's under investigation? My father's face went white. What investigation? I walked to my desk and pulled out a folder. I had a lawyer look into Derek's business after Christmas. What I found... You need to see this. I opened the folder. Inside were SEC complaints, employee lawsuits, a pattern of fraud stretching back nearly 2 years. Dad, Derek isn't just failing, he's a con man, and you're not his only victim. You might be his accomplice. George stared at the papers. His hands were shaking. I didn't... The question now is, what are you going to do about it? Because this is going to come out. And when it does, it won't just take your house. It could take your freedom. My father looked up at me. For the first time, he wasn't seeing the invisible girl he'd dismissed for 34 years. He was seeing someone with power. And he was terrified. The papers spread across my coffee table like evidence at a crime scene. SEC complaints dating back 18 months. Former employee testimonials alleging fake revenue reports. A pattern of investor payments made from new investor funds. Classic Ponzi structure. My father sat on my couch, reading through the documents with trembling hands, and I watched 30 years of arrogance crumble in real time. This has to be a mistake, he said. Derek showed me projections, growth charts. Projections aren't profits, Dad. Did you ever see actual audited financials? Silence told me everything. He's Melissa's husband. He wouldn't what? Lie? Steal? He's been doing both for at least 2 years. George slumped back against the cushions. In that moment, he looked every one of his 63 years. All the bluster, all the certainty, all the condescension he had carried through my childhood. Gone. Replaced by something I had never seen in my father before. Fear. How much trouble am I in? He asked. That depends. How involved were you? I just gave him money. I didn't do anything illegal. Did you recruit other investors? His face answered before his mouth could form the words. A few. Friends from the club. Guys from the car dealership days. How many? How much? Maybe 8 people. Around 600,000 total. I closed my eyes. This was worse than I thought. I made coffee. Not because either of us wanted it, but because I needed time to think. When I returned to the living room, my father was still sitting in the same position, staring at the documents like they might rearrange themselves into something less devastating. Tell me everything, I said, from the beginning. He didn't look up. Just started talking, his voice flat and distant. 2 years ago, Derek approached me with an investment opportunity, promised 20% annual returns, guaranteed. I had just sold the car dealership, had cash sitting in accounts earning almost nothing. First investment was $50,000. Returns came right on time, impressive returns, so I put in more, $100,000, more returns. It felt like I had finally done something right, finally made a smart decision. I listened without interrupting. This was a side of my father I had never seen. Vulnerable, exposed. The patriarch stripped of his armor. Derek said he needed expansion capital, George continued. Asked if I knew anyone who might want to invest. I brought in friends, guys I've known for 30 years. They trusted me. I thought I was helping them. He paused, swallowed hard. 6 months ago, the returns started getting delayed. Derek had excuses. Market volatility, restructuring, temporary cash flow issues. 3 months ago, returns stopped entirely. I confronted him at Thanksgiving. He said just one more influx of capital and everything would stabilize. The reverse mortgage, I said. His face crumbled. I didn't tell your mother the full truth. I said we were refinancing for better rates. But you pulled $200,000 in equity out of your home and gave it all to Derek. Yes. If this collapses, you lose the house. And Mom doesn't know how bad it really is. She knows things are tight. She doesn't know how tight. You've been lying to her. I've been protecting her. Those aren't the same thing, Dad. He had no response. I thought about my mother, going about her daily routine, worrying about small expenses while her husband gambled their retirement on a con man's promises. She deserved to know the truth. But that wasn't my secret to tell. Not yet. Dad, if you recruited investors for a fraudulent scheme, you could be considered a co-conspirator, even if you didn't know it was fraud. I didn't know, he insisted. The law doesn't always care about what you knew. It cares about what you did. The color drained from his face. What do I do? For now, nothing. I need more information before I decide anything. But there's one condition. Anything. You tell Mom, everything. Tomorrow. Before I do anything else. His voice broke. She'll never forgive me. Maybe. But she deserves the truth. So do I. So do those 8 investors you recruited. He stared at the floor for a long moment. Then nodded. Okay. I didn't sleep that night. After my father left, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, diving deeper into Derek's company. What I found made my stomach turn. Shell corporations in Delaware. Phantom investments in companies that didn't exist. A web of transactions designed to obscure where the money actually went. By 3 a.m, I had a clearer picture of the scheme. Derek wasn't just incompetent. He was methodical, deliberate. A professional con artist wearing the mask of a loving husband and successful entrepreneur. And my father had helped him, whether he understood what he was doing or not. When morning came, I showered, dressed, and drove to the nursing home. December 31st, New Year's Eve. The last day of a year that had brought me a $250 million lottery win, and the revelation that my family was even more broken than I had imagined. The drive gave me time to think. I kept replaying my father's face when he realized the scope of his situation. 34 years of feeling invisible, and now he needed me to be visible. The irony was almost poetic. My phone buzzed at a red light. Messages from Melissa still ignored. A text from my mother asking me to call. And underneath those, an email notification. From the nursing home. Subject line, account status, urgent. I pulled into the Sunrise Senior Living parking lot and went straight to the front desk. I'd like to review my grandmother's account, I said. Eleanor Whitfield, room 114. The receptionist typed something into her computer and frowned. Are you on the authorized list? I should be. Ashley Whitfield. Granddaughter. More typing. Actually, you're listed as emergency contact but not for financial access. Who is listed? George Whitfield. Primary responsible party. I took a breath. Can you tell me if the account is current? She shifted uncomfortably. I really shouldn't. Please. I'm concerned about my grandmother's care. Her voice dropped. The account is significantly past due. 6 months. We've been sending notices 6 months, the same timeline as when Derek's returns stopped coming. My father had been paying Eleanor's bills, until he couldn't. How much is owed? $47,000. We've been patient because Mrs. Whitfield has been a resident for so long, but we may need to discuss alternative arrangements soon. Alternative arrangements. They were going to kick her out. I pulled out my checkbook. I'll pay the full balance today. And I want to be added as authorized for all financial matters. The receptionist's eyes widened. I'll get the paperwork. Eleanor was dressed when I entered her room, sitting in her chair by the window wearing her nicest blouse, with a wooden box on her lap. She had been waiting for me. Close the door, sweetheart, she said. I did. The click felt significant. I heard you at the front desk, she continued. These walls are thin, and my hearing is better than they think. Why didn't you tell me about the bills? Pride. Foolishness. The same reasons anyone keeps secrets. How have you been managing? My own savings, running out. I have maybe 2 more months before... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Your father promised to handle it. Every month he said the check is coming, Mom. Every month nothing. He's in trouble, Grandma. More trouble than you know. Derek's scheme? I blinked. You know about that? I'm old, not stupid. I watched that boy at Thanksgiving. All flash, no foundation. I told your father not to trust him. He didn't listen. He never listens. Not to me, not to you. Only to the sound of his own voice and the promises of easy money. Eleanor lifted the lid of the wooden box on her lap. Inside, I saw yellowed letters, old photographs, and a thick manila envelope. Your grandfather Harold was a quiet man, she said. Like you. Worked 40 years at the same company, never flashy. Never praised. But he saw things other people missed. She handed me the manila envelope. Open it. My hands trembled as I unfolded the flap. Inside were savings bonds. Dozens of them. Old paper bonds, the kind they don't issue anymore. And a handwritten letter, and a photograph. I looked at the bonds first, purchased decades ago. All in my name. Current value, according to the paperwork clipped to them, approximately $150,000. Then I looked at the photograph. A little girl in a garden, maybe 8 years old, covered in dirt, grinning at the camera. An older man beside her, equally dirty, equally happy. Me and Grandpa Harold. The summer I learned to plant tomatoes. I turned the photo over, his handwriting on the back. The quiet ones see everything. Trust this one. I unfolded the letter with trembling hands. Harold's handwriting was precise and careful, the penmanship of a man who took his time with important things. To my granddaughter Ashley, the letter began. The quiet ones see everything. I've watched you grow, watched how they overlook you. Don't let it harden your heart. But don't let it make you small either. This money is yours. I didn't tell your father because he would have found a way to spend it. Use it for yourself. Build something that's yours. Trust yourself. You've always been the strong one, even when no one else could see it. I read it twice, then a third time. Tears I didn't expect fell onto the paper. Harold had died 10 years ago, but his words felt like an embrace reaching across time and death. He left you the bonds because he knew, Eleanor said softly. Knew your father couldn't be trusted with money. Knew your mother would defer to whatever George wanted. Knew Melissa would always be the favorite. He wanted you to have something that was just yours. Why didn't you give this to me sooner? Harold's instructions, when she needs it most. She paused. I think that time is now. Eleanor reached back into the box and pulled out a faded document. A loan agreement, dated 30 years ago. Do you know how your parents bought their house? A mortgage, I said, like everyone else. The down payment. Where do you think that came from? I shook my head. I had never thought about it. Harold, she said, $100,000. When you were 4 years old. I stared at the document. My grandfather had given my parents the money to buy their home. Terms were simple. Repay when the house was paid off. Your parents' house was paid off 8 years ago. George never repaid a penny. When Harold brought it up, your father got angry, said he didn't need to be reminded of his debts. They didn't speak for 2 years before Harold died. I remembered that silence. The way Grandpa stopped coming to family dinners. The way no one explained why. Now I understood. Your father takes money, Eleanor continued. Makes promises, never follows through. Derek learned from the family master. Or maybe George saw himself in Derek. Either way, a pattern. Financial irresponsibility spanning generations. I'm telling you this because you need to understand something, Eleanor said. What? Your father will ask you to save him. He'll make it about family, about duty, about what you owe. I know. You don't owe him anything. Harold didn't leave you this money so you could give it to George. He left it so you could be free of George. What about you, Grandma? Your bills. She smiled. I'd never say no to help from my favorite granddaughter. But only if you want to. Only if it's your choice. Not guilt, not obligation, choice. I already paid them. The full balance. Her eyes widened. Before I even saw what was in this box. Before I knew about the bonds or the letter. You did that for me? I did it because it's right. Tears slid down her weathered cheeks. You really are Harold's granddaughter. I took her hand. What do I do now, Grandma? Find the middle path. There's always a middle path. Protecting them from consequences isn't love. It's enabling. But destroying them isn't justice either. Then what is? That's for you to decide. Just don't let their failures become your prison. I was in the nursing home parking lot when my phone rang. My mother's number. I answered. Ashley. He told me. About the house. About Derek. About all of it. How are you? A long pause. I don't know. I thought I knew our finances. I thought I knew our life. I don't know anything. It was the first honest conversation I had ever had with my mother. I should have paid more attention, she continued, but your father always handled money. He said it was better that way. You couldn't have known. I should have. A wife should know. A mother should... She broke off, crying. I'm sorry, Ashley. I'm sorry for everything. The lottery ticket. The jokes. The way we've treated you. It was the first apology I had ever received from either parent. I let it sit there between us, neither accepting nor rejecting. He's talking about going to Derek, she said, demanding answers. I'm scared of what might happen. Derek's not going to give answers, I said. He's going to run. What do? We get ahead of him. I have a lawyer. Let me handle this. Ashley, she said quietly, I don't deserve your help. Maybe not. But Grandma does. And right now, helping her means dealing with this. That night I sat alone in my apartment watching San Jose's fireworks through my window. New Year's Eve. The last hours of the year that had changed everything. On my coffee table sat the crystal future I was trying to construct. Legal pad with notes from the day. Eleanor's bills paid. Derek's company researched. George's exposure assessed. Harold's letter read so many times I had memorized it. What to do? The questions circled endlessly. Pay off Derek. Let him disappear. Protect my father from prosecution. Or turn everything over to the FBI. Let justice unfold. Let my father face the consequences of his choices. Or do nothing. Let the scheme collapse on its own. Let the chips fall wherever they landed. My phone buzzed. 11:47. A text from Derek. We need to meet. I have information about your family you don't know. Information that could destroy them or save them. Your choice. Tomorrow. Noon. Cafe Strada in Berkeley. Come alone. I stared at the message. He was no longer asking. He was threatening. What did he know that I didn't? What leverage did he think he had? Outside, fireworks exploded across the city, gold and silver spelling out the new year. Inside, I typed a response. I'll be there. Sent it. Set the phone down. Picked up Harold's letter and read the last line again. You've always been the strong one, even when no one else could see it. Time to prove it, I whispered to the empty room. The clock struck midnight. A new year began. And somewhere out there, Derek was preparing his next move. He didn't know I was preparing mine. I woke on New Year's Day with a plan already forming. The clock read 5 a.m, but sleep had been impossible. My mind had been racing all night, turning over possibilities, calculating risks, preparing for the confrontation ahead. Derek wanted to meet. Derek thought he had leverage. Derek was about to learn that I was not the pushover my family believed me to be. I made coffee, showered, and called my lawyer before 8. Rebecca Chen answered on the 3rd ring, and I apologized for interrupting her holiday. This is what you pay me for, she said. Tell me everything. I explained Derek's text. The demand to meet alone, the implied threat about information that could destroy or save my family. Her response was immediate and practical. Record everything. California is a 2-party consent state, so you can't use it in court, but you can use it for leverage. And don't go alone. He said, come alone. He doesn't get to set all the terms. I'll be at a table nearby. He won't know I'm there. I agreed. Then I spent the next 2 hours reviewing everything I knew. Derek's company was fraudulent. George had invested $200,000 and recruited $600,000 more. Derek was desperate. The scheme was collapsing. And Derek believed he had something on my family that I didn't know about. The question was what? Cafe Strata sat on a quiet corner in Berkeley, the kind of place where graduate students nursed single cups of coffee for hours while writing dissertations. I arrived at 11:45, 15 minutes early. Rebecca was already there, seated in a corner with her laptop open, looking like any other remote worker killing time. Our eyes met briefly. She nodded almost imperceptibly. I chose a table by the window, visible, public. My phone was in my purse with the voice memo app running. A backup recorder sat in my jacket pocket, Rebecca's suggestion. Even if it's not admissible, she had said, it's evidence of intent. Derek arrived at 12:03, deliberately late. A small power play that told me more about his state of mind than he probably intended. He looked different from Christmas. The polish was gone. Stubble shadowed his jaw. Dark circles underlined his eyes. His designer clothes were wrinkled. The golden boy was tarnishing. He slid into the seat across from me without greeting. You came. You asked. I said alone. I gestured at the nearly empty cafe. We're alone enough. He ordered coffee from the passing waitress, taking his time, trying to regain control of a situation that had clearly slipped beyond his grasp. I waited. Said nothing. Let the silence work for me. Finally, Derek spoke. I know you think you have this figured out. Do I? You think I'm the villain, the con man who took advantage of your family, aren't you? He laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. I'm the fall guy. There's a difference. I kept my face neutral. Explain. Your father isn't the victim he's pretending to be. He's my partner. The words hung between us. I had suspected something like this. The overheard conversation at Christmas, the guaranteed returns, my father's desperation. But hearing it stated so plainly still landed like a blow. I'm listening, I said. 2 years ago, your father came to me with an idea. Derek leaned forward, his voice dropping. Not the other way around. George approached me after he sold the car dealership, had $300,000 sitting around, wanted to multiply it fast. He proposed a private investment club. Bring in friends, pool money, invest aggressively. I had the fintech background. He had the network of wealthy contacts. We'd split the profits. And the scheme? The scheme evolved. Derek's eyes met mine. First year was legitimate. Real investments, decent returns. But George got greedy, wanted bigger returns, faster, started pushing me to guarantee specific percentages to attract more investors. You can't guarantee returns in real investing, Derek continued, so we started supplementing. New investor money paying old investor returns. It was supposed to be temporary, just until the real investments caught up, but they never did, and by then we were in too deep to stop. I processed his words, searching for the lie. There's always a lie with people like Derek, but his story aligned too well with what I already knew. My father's desperation, his familiarity with the scheme's details, the way he had tried to spin himself as a victim rather than a participant. You're saying my father designed this? I said. Derek pulled out his phone and showed me an email. From George to Derek, dated 18 months ago. We need to promise at least 15%. That's what gets them in. We can figure out how to deliver later. He showed me another. Don't put anything in writing to the investors. Verbal only. Plausible deniability. My father's words, my father's strategy. My stomach dropped, but I kept my face composed. Why are you showing me this? Because when this collapses, and it will collapse probably within weeks, I'm not going down alone. What do you want? $2 million. Cash. Untraceable. I disappear. Start over somewhere else. And I take all the evidence of George's involvement with me. Blackmail, I said. Insurance, he corrected. For both of us. You don't want your father in prison, do you? Think of what that would do to your mother. To Melissa. I let his words settle before responding. $2 million is a lot of money. You have $250 million, $160 after taxes. And it's not liquid. It's in trusts, investments, legal structures. I can't just write you a check. Figure it out. You're the smart one, remember? The one with the fancy tech job. I noted the bitterness. Derek resented me too. Everyone in my family did. I need time to verify what you've shown me. Verify? His face hardened. You think I'm lying? I think everyone in my family has lied to me my entire life. You're part of my family now, like it or not. Why should you be different? He stared at me. Something shifted in his expression. Perhaps a grudging respect. Perhaps just recalculation. 1 week, that's all you get. After that, I go to the FBI myself, make a deal, trade George for leniency. And Melissa? The question escaped before I could stop it. For the first time, Derek hesitated. What about her? She's pregnant. Did you know? The color drained from his face. She what? 12 weeks, found out just before Christmas. Derek slumped back in his chair. She didn't tell me. Maybe she was waiting for the right moment. Maybe there is no right moment when your husband is a con artist. The pregnancy had changed something for him. I watched him recalculate, watched the gears turn behind his eyes. 1 week, he repeated, but softer now. And if I need more time? Then you call me. We talk, like adults. It was the first reasonable thing he had said. I need copies of everything you have, I told him, every email, every document, everything that shows what my father did or didn't do. Why would I give you that? Because if you're telling the truth, I need to know the full picture before I decide anything. And if you're lying, I'll find out anyway and you'll get nothing. He considered this for a long moment. I'll send you a secure link. Tonight. Everything I have. And you don't contact my family in the meantime. No calls to Melissa. No threats to George. You wait. What about the money? I'll have an answer for you in 1 week. I stood, picked up my purse with the recorder still running. One more thing, Derek. What? If you're lying to me, if you're trying to use doctored evidence to extort money, I will find out. And I won't be writing you a check. I'll be hiring investigators. The kind you can't hide from. He met my eyes. I'm a lot of things, Ashley, but I'm not making this up. Your father is not who you think he is. Rebecca met me in the parking lot. I climbed into her car, and the moment the door closed, I felt the adrenaline crash hit. My hands started shaking. You did great, she said, handing me a bottle of water. Breathe. You did great. Did I? I feel like I just made a deal with the devil. You bought time. That's what matters right now. She waited while I collected myself. If those emails are authentic, she said carefully, your father has significant exposure. How significant? Wire fraud, securities fraud. If he recruited investors across state lines, potentially federal charges. Prison? Possible. Likely, actually, depending on how much money we're talking about and how many victims. I stared out the window at the Berkeley Street, watching normal people walk by with their normal problems. My father in prison. Part of me thought he deserves it. Another part thought he's still my father. There's another possibility you should consider, Rebecca said. What? Cooperation. If your father goes to the authorities first, admits his role, helps them build a case against Derek, he might get a reduced sentence, maybe even avoid prison entirely. Turn himself in. It's not as dramatic as it sounds. White-collar cases often reward cooperation. The FBI wants the architect, not the builder. If Derek designed this, and your father was just greedy and stupid, there's room to negotiate. I filed this away. I need to verify those emails first. Make sure Derek isn't playing me. I know a forensic accountant. And a digital forensics expert. They can authenticate the documents once Derek sends them. How much? About $50,000 for a full investigation. I almost laughed. A week ago, that was my annual savings. The secure link arrived at 8:47 that evening. An email from Derek with nothing but a URL and a password. I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, cursor hovering over the link. This is Pandora's box, I thought. Once I open it, I can't unsee what's inside. I clicked. The folder contained 147 emails between Derek and George spanning 22 months. Financial spreadsheets showing investor names, amounts, dates, recorded phone calls, bank transfer records, and a document that made my blood run cold. Whitfield Investment Partners Operating Agreement. Dated January 2 years ago. George Whitfield and Derek Lawson, equal partners. Purpose: to pool and invest capital from qualified investors. My father's signature at the bottom, unmistakable. I had seen it my whole life. This wasn't Derek pulling George into a scheme. They built it together. I read the emails for hours. George in March 2 years ago told the Henderson family we're fully invested in tech startups. They're in for $75,000. Nice work. Derek in April. Returns are behind. We need to pull from the new investments to cover. George responding, do it. They won't know the difference. Just keep the statements looking good. George in September. My daughter Melissa has been asking questions. Told her to mind her own business. Women and money, you know how it is. I read that last line 3 times. My jaw tightened with each repetition. Then I played the phone recordings. My father's voice, unmistakable. The key is confidence. People invest in confidence, not numbers. Act like you know what you're doing and they'll give you anything. Derek laughing. You should write a book. George chuckling back. Maybe I will. Call it The Art of the Friendly Deal. I stopped the recording, sat in silence for a long time. My father wasn't a victim. My father wasn't even just complicit. My father was a thief, a liar, a con man. Everything he had told me was a performance, designed to make me feel sorry for him, to manipulate me into saving him. Again. I thought about Christmas night, the $2 lottery ticket, the laughter. My father had handed me that ticket knowing what he had done, knowing he was drowning in fraud. And still he dismissed me. Still he made me feel small. What kind of person does that? The answer came clear and cold. The kind of person George has always been. I just didn't see it clearly until now. Midnight came and went. January 2nd now. I sat in the dark, laptop glowing, evidence of my father's crimes spread across my screen. Options spun through my mind. Pay Derek off. Let him disappear. Protect my father from the consequences he deserved. Or turn everything over to the FBI. Let justice take its course. Let my father face what he had done. Or confront George with the evidence. Force him to confess. Give him one chance to do the right thing. My phone buzzed. 1:17 in the morning. Melissa. I hesitated, then answered. Her voice came through raw from crying. He's gone. Derek's gone. What do you mean gone? I came home and his closet was empty. His passport's missing. Our joint account has $500,000 missing. He left a note. My blood ran cold. What did it say? Her voice broke. It said, I'm sorry. Ask your sister to explain. Ashley, what is going on? What does he mean, ask my sister? I closed my eyes. Derek hadn't waited a week. He had taken what he could and run. And now I had to tell Melissa everything. I grabbed my keys and ran to my car. Melissa was still on the phone, her voice breaking between sobs and questions I couldn't answer yet. I'm coming, I told her. Don't call anyone else. Don't call Mom and Dad. Wait for me. I don't understand, she kept saying. Why would he leave? Why would he say to ask you? I'm coming. Just wait. The drive from San Jose to Sacramento takes 3 hours in daylight. At 1:30 in the morning, I made it in 2.5. Highway 99 stretched out dark and empty ahead of me. The same road where I had bought the lottery ticket. The same road that had started all of this. My mind raced faster than the car. Derek ran. Took $500,000. Left Melissa with nothing. Left a note pointing at me. He was making me the villain in her story. Of course he was. That's what liars do when they're cornered. They deflect, they blame. They make someone else responsible for the wreckage they created. What was I going to tell her? Everything. The emails. George's involvement. The whole ugly truth. How do you tell your sister that her husband is a con man and her father is his partner. How do you tell a pregnant woman her entire life is built on fraud? I gripped the steering wheel tighter and kept driving. The truth. You tell her the truth. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Melissa and Derek's house sat in an upscale Sacramento suburb, the kind of neighborhood where lawns were manicured and cars were expensive, and everyone pretended their lives were perfect. I pulled into the driveway at 4:15 in the morning. The house was lit up like a beacon, every window blazing. Melissa hadn't slept, neither had I. I grabbed my laptop and walked to the front door. It opened before I could knock. Melissa stood there looking like something had broken inside her. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. Her hair was wild. She was still wearing the clothes from yesterday, wrinkled now, disheveled. This wasn't the polished, perfect sister from Christmas. This was someone whose world had collapsed while she slept. "You came," she said. "Of course I came." We stood there for a moment, two sisters who had spent 30 years as strangers, and something shifted between us. Not forgiveness, not yet, but recognition. I stepped inside and she closed the door behind me. The house showed evidence of Derek's hasty departure everywhere I looked. Closet doors hanging open, drawers pulled out, empty spaces on shelves where things used to be. Melissa walked through the wreckage like a ghost haunting her own life. "He took the Rolex," she said, "the one my parents gave him for Christmas 2 years ago, the one they couldn't afford." I filed that detail away. Another piece of the puzzle, another sign of who Derek really was. We ended up in the living room. Melissa collapsed onto the couch while I set my laptop on the coffee table. "What did he mean?" she asked again. "Ask your sister to explain. What do you know?" I sat down across from her. "I need to show you something. And I need you to let me finish before you react. You're scaring me." "I know, I'm sorry. But you need to see this." I opened the laptop. The folder of evidence filled the screen. 147 emails, phone recordings, the operating agreement, everything Derek had sent me, everything that proved who he really was, and who our father really was. "What is all this?" Melissa asked. "The truth about your husband." I paused, weighing my next words carefully. "And about our father." I walked her through it piece by piece. Started with the basics. Derek's company was a Ponzi scheme. Investors paid with money from other investors. Returns were fake. The whole thing was fraudulent from the start. Melissa shook her head. "That's not possible. He showed me growth projections, investor testimonials." "Projections aren't profits," I said, echoing what I had told our father. "Did you ever see actual audited financials? Actual bank statements?" "No, she never had. Because Derek never showed them to anyone, because they didn't exist." "There's more," I said, "and this part is going to be worse." I showed her the operating agreement. George Whitfield and Derek Lawson, equal partners. Dated 2 years ago. Her face went through stages I recognized. Confusion, denial. Then something darker as understanding dawned. "This is Dad's signature," she whispered. "I know. Dad knew? Dad was involved?" I pulled up the emails, read the key passages aloud. George suggesting guaranteed returns. George coaching Derek on how to recruit investors. George dismissing Melissa's questions because women and money, you know how it is. She looked at me with something like horror. "He said that? About me? I'm sorry." Melissa stood abruptly and started pacing the room. 2 years ago, she said, half to herself. Dad came to Sunday dinner with Derek. They were so excited, said they had a business opportunity. I thought it was sweet, father-son bonding. "They were planning this," I said. I introduced them. She turned to face me. "I introduced Dad to Derek at our engagement party." "This is my fault." "No, this is their fault. You were used, Melissa, just like everyone else they recruited." I showed her the investor spreadsheet, names she recognized immediately. "The Hendersons, the Parkinsons. These are Dad's friends. These are people who came to our wedding. $600,000 from 8 families, plus Dad's $200,000. Where did it go? Derek's lifestyle, the company's fake infrastructure, and payments to Dad, 30% of everything. Melissa sat back down. Her legs seemed to give out beneath her. My whole life is a lie, she said. My marriage, my house, my parents' respect, all of it. She looked at me with sudden clarity. They gave you a $2 lottery ticket and gave me a $65,000 car. But the car was bought with stolen money, wasn't it? Probably. So even when they favored me, it was fake. It was someone else's money. The tears came then, not the pretty tears from Christmas when she received the SUV keys. Ugly crying, raw, real, the kind of crying that strips away every mask you've ever worn. I watched her fall apart and felt something I hadn't expected. Compassion. This was the sister who had laughed at me, the golden child who got everything while I got nothing. But she was also a victim. She had just lost everything too. Different from my losses, but losses nonetheless. I moved to sit beside her on the couch, put an arm around her shoulders. She stiffened at first, then collapsed against me, sobbing. "I'm sorry," she gasped between breaths. "For what? For everything. For the lottery ticket. For laughing. For 34 years of being terrible to you." I let her cry. Something loosened in my chest. Not forgiveness, not yet. But something. When the tears finally slowed, Melissa's hand went to her stomach. "I'm going to be a mother," she said. "And the father of my child is a criminal. The father of your child is gone. The baby is still yours. How do I raise a child alone? I don't know how to do anything alone. You learn, like everyone else learns. I'm not like you, Ashley. I've never been strong like you. I wasn't strong. I was invisible. There's a difference." Somewhere in the long hours between night and dawn, a memory surfaced. I looked at my sister, mascara streaked and broken, and remembered a different Melissa. Summer of 1996. I was 6 years old. She was 10. We were at Grandma Eleanor's house, helping Grandpa Harold plant tomatoes in his backyard garden. Melissa held the seedlings while I dug holes in the dark earth. Grandpa Harold crouched beside us, patient and present, teaching us how deep to plant, how much water to give. "Plants don't care who's watching," he had said. "They just grow toward the light." Melissa had laughed, dirt on her nose. "Ash, you have a worm in your hair." I shrieked and we both tumbled into the garden, giggling, covered in soil. Grandpa pretended to be annoyed but couldn't hide his smile. That was the summer before everything changed. Before Melissa started cheerleading. Before Dad decided she was the social one and I was the quiet one. Before the labels became cages we couldn't escape. We used to be friends. Before anyone told us we couldn't be. "Where did you go?" Melissa's voice pulled me back to the present. "You got quiet. Grandpa Harold's garden. Summer of 96. Her face softened. "I had dirt on my nose. You had a worm in your hair. You remember. I remember everything, Ashley. I just learned to pretend I didn't." Around 5:30, I stepped away to call Eleanor. The sky was beginning to lighten outside, gray dawn replacing black night. Melissa was in the bathroom trying to pull herself together. I needed guidance. Grandma answered on the third ring. "I've been up since 4, she said. "Old women don't sleep. What's happening?" I summarized everything. Derek running, Melissa learning the truth. George's involvement proven. "I don't know what to do, Grandma. Do I go to the FBI? Do I let it collapse on its own? Do I try to fix it?" Eleanor was quiet for a long moment. I could hear her breathing. "When your grandfather and I got married," she finally said, "his mother told me something. She said don't protect grown men from the consequences of their own choices. It doesn't help them. It just delays the reckoning. So I should let Dad face consequences? I'm saying protecting them from consequences isn't love. It's enabling. But destroying them isn't justice either. No, it isn't. Find the middle path, Ashley. There's always a middle path. One more thing." "What?" "Your sister is not your father. Remember that. Melissa was raised to be what they wanted. Just like you were raised to be invisible. Neither of you chose it." I looked toward the bathroom where Melissa was. Now go take care of your sister. That's something she's never had before. Melissa emerged looking slightly more human, washed face, hair pulled back, still exhausted, still devastated, but composed. I heard some of that, she said. You were talking to Grandma? She says hello. Grandma always liked you better. No bitterness in her voice now, just observation. Grandma saw me. That's different from liking. Melissa nodded slowly. I'm starting to understand that. We moved to the kitchen. I made coffee while she sat at the counter, both of us trying to figure out what came next. We need to figure out what happens, I said. I have nothing. Melissa's voice was flat. Derek emptied the joint account. The house has 2 mortgages. I have maybe $3,000 in my personal checking. Do you have a lawyer? For what? Divorce? Criminal defense? Bankruptcy? I don't even know which one I need first. All of them, probably. But divorce first. You need to legally separate yourself from Derek's crimes. I can't afford a lawyer. I can. She looked up sharply. I'm not asking you for money. I know, I'm offering. Why? After everything? Because you're my sister. Because you're pregnant. Because for the first time in 34 years, you're actually seeing me. That's worth something. Melissa's eyes filled again. I don't deserve your help. Probably not. But I'm not doing it because you deserve it. I'm doing it because it's right. I laid out the terms. I'll pay for your lawyer. I'll help you find a place to live. But I'm not writing blank checks. I understand. I won't enable dependency. I've spent my whole life being used. I won't start a new pattern. What do you need from me? Honesty? Going forward? No more pretending? No more performing for Mom and Dad? Just truth. Melissa extended her hand. Deal. We shook, formal, strange, but real. The first honest agreement we had ever made. My phone rang at 9:47. Unknown number, I answered. Miss Whitfield? This is Special Agent Marcus Torres, FBI Financial Crimes Division. My stomach dropped. Yes? We need to speak with you regarding Derek Lawson and Whitfield Investment Partners. Can you come to our Sacramento field office today? I kept my voice steady. How did you find me? Derek Lawson was detained at the Mexican border at 6 this morning. He had $400,000 in cash and a laptop full of evidence. During initial questioning, he named you as someone with relevant information. He's trying to bargain, I realized. He's trading my family for leniency. We're not confirming what Mr. Lawson has said, but we'd like to hear your side. I have documentation that may be relevant to your investigation. What kind of documentation? Emails, recordings, financial records. Mr. Lawson sent them to me 2 days ago. Silence on the line. Then, can you bring those with you? Yes, and I'll need my lawyer present. That's your right. 2 o'clock? I'll be there. I hung up and found Melissa staring at me, face pale. The FBI, she said. They caught Derek at the border with $400,000 in cash. What about Dad? Will they? I don't know yet. That's what I'm going to find out. I gathered my things, laptop, phone, the evidence that could save my father or condemn him. I stopped at the door, turned back to face my sister. There's something else I haven't told you. What? I have evidence that Dad was Derek's partner, full partner. The FBI is going to want to see it. Melissa's face went white. If you show them that, Dad could go to prison. I know. So what are you going to do? I looked at her. Pregnant, abandoned, terrified. Looked at my phone with the FBI agent's number saved. Looked at my laptop holding 147 emails that could destroy my father or set him free depending on how I chose to use them. I'm going to tell the truth, I said, whatever that means. I walked out to my car. Behind me, Melissa stood in the doorway. 2 sisters, 1 truth, and a family about to face consequences 30 years in the making. The FBI Sacramento field office was a cold, gray building that looked exactly like what it was, a place where lives came apart. I arrived at 1:45 with Rebecca Chen beside me, laptop bag heavy on my shoulder. 147 emails, 23 recordings, 1 operating agreement. Evidence that could send my father to prison. Evidence I was about to hand over voluntarily. "Remember," Rebecca said as we crossed the parking lot, "answer what they ask. Don't volunteer extra. And if I squeeze your arm, stop talking." I nodded, but my mind was somewhere else. I still hadn't decided exactly what to say. I could give them everything. Let justice unfold however it would. I could give them only Derek's information, protect George, minimize his role. I could claim ignorance, pretend I didn't understand the full picture. But that last option was a felony, lying to federal agents, adding my own crimes to my father's. "You okay?" Rebecca asked. "No, but I'm here." The security line moved slowly. Badge check, metal detector, forms to fill out, the bureaucracy of destruction. In the waiting room, a woman sat crying quietly in a corner. Someone else's tragedy unfolding parallel to mine. I wondered how many families had been broken in rooms like this, wondered if mine was about to join them. The door opened and a man emerged, early 40s, tired eyes, the look of someone who had seen too much human weakness to be surprised by any of it. Agent Marcus Torres. He shook my hand with a firm grip. "Miss Whitfield, thank you for coming in. This way, please." He led us down a corridor lined with photographs of convicted criminals, men and women who had stolen, cheated, lied. I wondered if my father's face would hang here someday. The interview room was small and bare. A table, 4 chairs, a recording device in the corner, no windows. Torres sat across from us, opened a folder, and began. "Mr. Lawson was arrested this morning attempting to cross into Mexico. He had $400,000 in cash and a laptop containing extensive documentation of the fraud scheme he operated." I noted the phrasing. The fraud scheme he operated. They were building a case against Derek. The question was whether my father would be swept up in it. During initial questioning, Torres continued, "Mr. Lawson claimed you had documentation proving others were involved. Is that true?" I felt Rebecca's presence beside me. Steady, supportive. "I have documentation that Mr. Lawson sent me," I said carefully. "I haven't verified its authenticity." "But you have it." "Yes." I placed my laptop on the table and opened the folder. "Mr. Lawson sent me these files on January 1st. He was attempting to blackmail me." "Blackmail you for what?" $2 million. In exchange for his silence and disappearance. Torres's eyebrows rose. "And you have proof of this blackmail attempt?" I recorded our conversation. My lawyer advised it. Rebecca slid a USB drive across the table. The recording. And a transcript. Torres plugged the drive into his laptop, scrolled through the files. His expression shifted when he reached the operating agreement. "George Whitfield," he said. "That's your father." "Yes, he's listed as an equal partner in this investment scheme." "Yes." "Did you know about his involvement before Mr. Lawson showed you this?" "No. I found out 2 days ago." Torres leaned back, studying me with new interest. "And you're sharing this information voluntarily, knowing it implicates your father. I'm sharing it because it's the truth. What you do with it is your decision." The question I had been dreading came next. "Miss Whitfield, do you have any reason to believe your father was the primary architect of this scheme? Or was he recruited by Mr. Lawson?" This was the moment. I could minimize George's role. Say Derek manipulated him. Paint my father as a victim instead of a participant. I could tell the full truth. The emails showing George's initiative, his coaching, his enthusiasm for the con. Rebecca's hand brushed my arm. Not a squeeze. Just presence. I took a breath and made my choice. "The emails suggest it was a partnership," I said, "but some of them show my father proposing strategies, coaching Mr. Lawson on how to recruit investors. The scheme may have been collaborative, but my father wasn't an innocent victim." The words hung in the air. I had just implicated my own father in a federal crime. There was no taking it back. Torres nodded slowly, making notes. "We appreciate your candor, Miss Whitfield. It's unusual. I'm not interested in protecting criminals, even if they're family, Even knowing this could result in federal charges against your father, especially knowing that the people he defrauded deserve justice. They trusted him. Rebecca intervened smoothly. Agent Torres, my client has cooperated fully and voluntarily. She's provided evidence she wasn't legally obligated to share. Is there anything else you need today? Torres closed his notebook. Not today, but we'll need a formal statement. And we may have follow-up questions as the investigation progresses. My client will cooperate fully. Torres stood and offered his hand. For what it's worth, Miss Whitfield, I've been doing this 20 years. Most people in your position try to protect their family at any cost. What you did today took courage. I shook his hand. It didn't feel like courage. It felt like the only option. Sometimes that's what courage is. As we gathered our things to leave, Torres added one more thing. We'll be reaching out to your father within the next few days. You may want to prepare him. Prepare him? Voluntary cooperation goes a long way in sentencing. If he comes to us before we come to him? The implication was clear. I understand. The drive to Sacramento felt longer than 3 hours. Rebecca had offered to come with me, but I declined. This is a family conversation, I told her. I need to do it alone. Alone in my car, the reality of what I had done settled over me like a weight. I had given the FBI evidence against my own father. I had started a clock that could end with George in prison. Did I do the right thing? The question circled endlessly. No clear answer came. I called Eleanor from the road. Grandma, I just left the FBI. Silence on the line, then, and? I told them everything, about Dad, about Derek, everything. How do you feel? I considered the question. Empty, scared, but clear. For the first time in weeks, I feel clear. That's how truth feels. Heavy and clear at the same time. What happens now? I'm going to see Dad. Give him a chance to cooperate before they come for him. That's more than he deserves. Maybe. But it's who I want to be. I don't want to destroy him, Grandma. I just want him to face what he's done. There's a difference between destruction and consequences. You're giving him the chance to choose. That's mercy. What if he doesn't take it? Then he's made his choice. And you've made yours. The rest is out of your hands. She paused. One more thing, Ashley. What? Your father has never faced real consequences in his life. He won't go quietly. Prepare yourself for that. My parents' house looked different in the evening light. Smaller, less imposing. The Christmas decorations were gone now, leaving just a suburban home like any other. No visible signs of the fraud that had been conducted from within these walls. No indication that lives had been ruined by the man who lived here. My mother's car sat in the driveway. My father's truck beside it. I parked and sat for a moment, remembering the last time I had arrived here. Christmas Eve. Carrying handmade scarves. Expecting nothing and receiving exactly that. A $2 lottery ticket and 25 people laughing. A lifetime ago. I got out of the car and walked to the front door. My mother opened it before I could knock. Ashley, Melissa called. She told us about Derek. About everything. Is Dad here, in his study? He won't come out, won't talk to me. I walked past her without hugging her. Time for that later. Maybe. The study door was closed. I knocked once. No answer. Dad, we need to talk. Open the door or I'm coming in anyway. A long pause. Then the lock clicked. George sat in his leather chair, a bottle of whiskey on the desk in front of him. He looked like he had aged 10 years since Christmas. All the confidence gone. All the bluster evaporated. Just a tired old man facing the end of everything he had built on lies. Come to gloat? He asked. I came to give you a chance. A chance at what? At not spending the rest of your life in prison? He laughed, harsh and bitter. Prison? You think they'd put me in prison? I'm 63 years old. I invested in my son-in-law's company. That's not a crime. You helped design a Ponzi scheme, Dad. You recruited investors. You took 30% of stolen money. That's multiple federal felonies. You can't prove any of that. I pulled out my phone and played one of the recordings. My father's voice filled the room. The key is confidence. People invest in confidence, not numbers. His face went gray. Derek recorded everything, I said. Every call, every meeting. And he gave it all to me. He was trying to blackmail you, and now he's trying to bargain with the FBI, using you as the trade. Here's what's going to happen, I said. The FBI is going to contact you within days, maybe hours. You have one chance to get ahead of this. What do you mean? Voluntary cooperation. You go to them, you confess. You provide testimony against Derek. You accept responsibility. And if I do that, maybe you avoid prison, maybe you get probation, community service, fines, but you save some dignity. You protect Mom from the worst of it. And if I don't? Then they come for you, with handcuffs, in front of the neighbors. And you lose everything anyway, plus years of your life. George stood abruptly, knocking over the whiskey bottle. You ungrateful little... I raised you. I fed you. I gave you everything. You gave me a $2 lottery ticket and called it appropriate for my situation. That was a joke. Was it? Or was it exactly what you thought I was worth? He had no response. The silence stretched between us, 34 years of unspoken truth finally filling the room. This is Derek's fault, George said finally. All of it. He manipulated me. The emails say otherwise. Those emails are out of context. Then explain the context. Explain why you wrote "don't put anything in writing," plausible deniability. Explain why you told Derek that Melissa should mind her own business because women and money. He couldn't, because there was no innocent explanation. The study door opened. My mother stood there, face streaked with tears. I heard everything, she said. George started to speak, but she cut him off. No. First time I had ever heard her say that word to him. I've been quiet for 38 years. I've let you make decisions, let you handle money, let you treat our daughters differently because you said you knew best. She walked to stand beside me. You should do what Ashley says, George. It's the only chance you have. He stared at his wife like he was seeing her for the first time. Maybe he was. George sank back into his chair. The fight drained out of him. What do I have to do? Call the FBI tomorrow morning, I said. Ask to cooperate. Tell them everything. Everything, everything. No more lies, no more spinning. Just truth. He looked at me with something like desperation. And if I do this, will you forgive me? I considered the question carefully. I don't know, but I'll give you the chance to earn it. There are conditions, I continued, non-negotiable. He nodded weakly. Karen still stood beside me, united for the first time in our lives. First, you fully cooperate with the FBI. No holding back, no strategic omissions. Agreed. Second, you repay every investor, all 8 families. Every cent they lost. I'll loan you the money, at 0 interest. You'll pay it back over time through whatever work you can get. A loan, not a gift. You need to feel the weight of what you did. Gifts don't teach lessons. Third, you sell this house. Downsize to something appropriate for your actual financial situation. My mother gasped but said nothing. Fourth, Grandma Eleanor's nursing home bills are paid in full, and you visit her, weekly, for as long as she's alive. George looked up. Eleanor? What is she? She's been covering her own bills because you stopped paying 6 months ago. You nearly got her evicted. Shame flooded his face. Genuine shame. I meant to catch up. Intentions don't pay bills, Dad. Last condition. You apologize. To Melissa. To me. To Mom. Not because it fixes anything, but because you owe us the truth of what you did and who you are. The silence stretched. Then finally, okay, all of it. I'll do all of it. Tomorrow. FBI first thing. Tomorrow. I walked out to my car. My mother followed. Ashley, wait. I turned. She stood in the porch light, arms wrapped around herself against the cold. I know I don't deserve to say this. I know I've been part of the problem. But thank you. For not giving up on us completely. I'm not doing this for you, I said. Or for him. I'm doing it because it's right. I know. That's what makes it matter. The drive home should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like exhaustion, like grief for something I couldn't name. My phone buzzed as I merged onto the highway. George's number. I answered. I called them, he said. The FBI. I'm going in at 10 tomorrow morning. Good. Will you come with me? I closed my eyes. He didn't deserve my support. But maybe this wasn't about what he deserved. I'll be there. I hung up, drove another mile, and my phone buzzed again. A text from Marcus Chen, my boss at Google. Just saw the news. Call me when you can. News? What news? I pulled over and opened my browser. The headline hit me like a physical blow. Sacramento man linked to multi-million-dollar investment fraud. Father of recent lottery winner. My photo. My father's photo. Side by side. The story was out, and my two worlds had just collided. I sat on the highway shoulder, staring at my phone screen, reading the headline over and over. Sacramento man linked to multi-million-dollar investment fraud. Father of recent lottery winner. The article connected everything. My name, my employer, the lottery win, Derek's arrest, George's involvement, all of it laid bare for public consumption. The comments section was already filling with speculation and judgment. Someone named Karen from Ohio wrote, "The apple doesn't fall far from the tree." I wonder if she knew about Daddy's schemes all along. Another person called me a fraud enabler. Another suggested I had probably helped plan the whole thing. I scrolled past them, stomach churning, until I reached the end of the article. Then I read the whole thing again. The story had been posted at 6:45 that evening. Within 2 hours, it had been picked up by 3 major news outlets. By morning, it would be everywhere. My father's mugshot-style photo next to my professional headshot from Google. The lottery winner and the criminal, packaged together for maximum clicks. I put the phone down and gripped the steering wheel, breathed, counted to 10. Then pulled back onto the highway and kept driving. I had promised my father I would be at the FBI office in the morning. Whatever this news meant for my life, that promise still held. I arrived at the FBI Sacramento field office at 9:45 the next morning. My father and mother were already there, standing on the sidewalk outside the building. George wore the suit he had worn to Melissa's wedding, the nicest thing he owned. Karen clutched his arm like he might disappear if she let go. Both of them looked terrified. Good, I thought, then felt guilty for thinking it. "You came," George said when he saw me. "I said I would." Rebecca Chen arrived moments later, looking crisp and professional despite the early hour and the chaos of the past week. "This is highly unusual," she murmured to me as we approached the entrance, supporting the target of an investigation. "He's my father. That's why it's unusual." We walked into the building together, a family marching into the fire. Agent Torres met us in the lobby, his expression unreadable. "Miss Whitfield," he said with a nod. "Didn't expect to see you again so soon. I'm here to support my father, not to participate." He studied me for a moment, then turned to George. "Mr. Whitfield, if you'll come with me." George stood. His legs looked unsteady. He turned to look at me one last time. "Whatever happens," he said, "thank you for giving me this chance." I nodded. Couldn't speak. He disappeared through the security door and the waiting began. 3 hours passed. Karen paced the waiting room while I sat motionless, watching the clock. My phone buzzed constantly with news alerts and texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Reporters, probably. People who had somehow found my contact information. I turned the phone face down and tried to think about nothing. A text came through from Melissa, saw the news. "Are you okay?" I typed back. "With Dad at FBI. He's cooperating." Her response came immediately. "Good, call me when you can." The first supportive message I had ever received from my sister. Strange how crisis could reshape everything. At 1:15, the door opened. George walked out, looking like a man who had just confessed every sin of his entire life. His face was gray, his eyes red. But there was something else there, too. Something that looked almost like relief. "It's done," he said. I told them everything. Karen rushed to him. What happens now? They'll decide on charges. But they said cooperation matters. They said someone had already given them the full picture. Made my statement corroborate everything. He looked at me. I had done that. My evidence had made his confession easier. Whether that was mercy or manipulation, I still wasn't sure. Let's go home, Dad. I sat in my car in the FBI parking lot after my parents left. The morning had drained something from me, left me hollow, but there was still another storm to face. I pulled out my phone and called Marcus Chen. Ashley, he answered on the second ring. I've been waiting for your call. I'm sorry. It's been a complicated morning. I saw the news. Your father? Yes. He surrendered to the FBI today. He's cooperating. A long pause. I appreciate you telling me directly. Marcus, I want you to know that I had no idea about any of this until last week. The fraud, the scheme, I only found out after Derek ran. I believe you. You do? Ashley, I've worked with you for 6 years. I know who you are. The question isn't whether I believe you. The question is how we manage this publicly. What do you mean? Your name is connected to your father's now. The lottery was already going to bring attention. This makes it complicated. Are you saying I should resign? I'm saying we need to talk. In person. Can you come in tomorrow? The infrastructure milestone. Can wait. Your career matters more right now. Tomorrow. My office. 9 o'clock. I'll be there. And Ashley? Whatever happens, you've done nothing wrong. Remember that. He hung up. Whatever happens. The phrase echoed in my mind for hours. I drove to Melissa's house instead of going home. I couldn't face my empty apartment, couldn't face being alone with the headlines and the comments and the endless buzz of my phone. Melissa opened the door before I knocked. I was hoping you'd come. The house still showed signs of Derek's departure, but something had changed. Melissa had started cleaning, organizing, trash bags by the door filled with his belongings, boxes stacked in the hallway. She was reclaiming her space. I couldn't sleep last night, she explained. So I started throwing out his things. Felt good, like exorcising a demon. She made pasta for dinner. Simple, nothing fancy. It's all I know how to cook, she admitted. Derek always handled everything. We ate in the kitchen, no formal dining room, like regular people instead of the polished family we had always pretended to be. First meal we had shared alone in more than a decade. Melissa set down her fork midway through and looked at me. I've been thinking about what you said, about learning to do things alone. I waited. I was so scared of being alone that I ignored every red flag, every lie, every time he made me feel small. You're not alone now. That's the crazy part. She laughed, but there were tears in it. I feel less alone now than I did when I was married. Something shifted in her expression then. A door opening that had been locked for years. There's something I never told anyone, she said. I set down my own fork, waited. Last year, before Thanksgiving, Derek and I had a fight about money. I questioned one of his business expenses. Her hand trembled against the table. He hit me, just once, backhanded me across the face. My blood went cold. Melissa. I told myself it was an accident, that he was stressed, that it would never happen again. Did it? No. But the threat was always there, in his eyes, in the way he looked at me when I asked questions. Tears streamed down her face now. I was so ashamed. The golden child with the perfect marriage. I couldn't let anyone know it was all fake. I moved to her side of the table and held her. It's not your fault, I said. None of this is your fault. We stayed like that for a long time. Two sisters who had been strangers for 30 years, finally finding each other in the wreckage. We moved to the living room eventually. Wine and blankets like a sleepover from childhood. Like the childhood we should have had but didn't. Melissa talked about the pressure of being the favorite. Every time Dad praised me, she said, I felt relief that it wasn't me being dismissed. But I also felt sick. Because I knew what he was doing to you. Why didn't you ever say anything? I was terrified of losing my place. If I defended you, Maybe they'd start treating me like you. I let that honesty sit between us. It was brutal. It was also true. That's honest, I finally said. I'm done lying. Even to myself. Do you know what it was like? I asked her, growing up invisible in my own family? She shook her head. I convinced myself I didn't need them. Built walls so high no one could hurt me. But the walls kept everyone out, even people who might have loved me. You never dated. Never brought anyone home. How could I? I didn't trust anyone. If my own family couldn't see my value, why would a stranger? She reached for my hand. I'm sorry. For all of it. The jokes, the favoritism, the lottery ticket, everything. I know. Do you forgive me? I'm working on it. That's all I can promise right now. That's enough. That's more than I deserve. Melissa went to a bookshelf and returned with an old photo album. I found this while cleaning. Thought you might want to see. Pages of childhood photos. 2 little girls in matching dresses. Building sandcastles at the beach. Blowing out birthday candles together. Arms around each other, grinning at the camera. We used to be friends, I whispered. We can be again, if you'll let me. I turned a page and found a photo I had never seen. Me and Melissa with Grandpa Harold. His garden. Summer sun. His handwriting on the back. My 2 favorite girls. 1998. I never knew he thought of me that way, I said. Melissa leaned her head against my shoulder. Grandpa loved you. We all did, in our broken ways. We just forgot how to show it. I walked into Google the next morning feeling like I was walking into a courtroom. The whispers had multiplied. The glances lingered. I could feel the weight of judgment with every step. Lottery winner. Fathers of fraud. Why is she even here? I held my head high and kept walking. Marcus's office door was closed when I arrived. His assistant waved me in. He stood when I entered, closed the door behind me, and got straight to the point. I'll be direct, Ashley. HR has concerns. About what? Your public profile. The lottery already made you visible. The fraud investigation makes you a potential liability. A liability. For doing my job? For being a distraction? The media attention? The questions? I leaned forward. Marcus, I've worked here 6 years. I've led projects that saved this company millions. The infrastructure milestone we just hit? That was me, my team. I know, I didn't commit fraud. I didn't steal anything. I found out my father was a criminal and I reported him to the FBI myself. I know that too. Then what exactly is the problem? The problem is perception. And I'm not the one you need to convince. Then who? The VP of Engineering wants to meet with you. Tomorrow. He's concerned about optics. Marcus's support came without hesitation. For what it's worth, I told him you're the best program manager I've ever worked with. And I'll say it again tomorrow. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Just be prepared. They may offer you a leave of absence. Paid. Until this blows over. And if I refuse, let's hope it doesn't come to that. The week that followed blurred together in a haze of meetings and negotiations and small victories. The VP meeting happened. I defended myself with data, with metrics, with 6 years of results that spoke louder than any headline. The outcome, no leave of absence, but reduced visibility. Kept off public-facing projects until the situation stabilized. It stung, but I still had my job, for now. George's situation moved forward. Federal charges were filed, wire fraud, securities fraud, conspiracy. But with his full cooperation, prosecutors recommended probation over prison. Sentencing hearing scheduled for March. He started attending meetings. Not AA, he didn't have a drinking problem, but something similar for people who needed structure and accountability. Small steps, uncertain progress. Melissa filed for divorce. I paid the retainer for her lawyer, but nothing else. She moved into a small apartment in San Jose near me, started looking for jobs. It's humbling, she admitted. I don't know what I'm qualified for. You're qualified to figure it out. I moved Eleanor to a better facility, Seaside Memory Care in Carmel, ocean view, garden, the kind of place she deserved. "You're spending too much on me," she protested. "I'm spending exactly enough." On January 10th, I checked my mail for the first time in days. Bills, junk, charity requests, and one envelope that made me stop breathing. Thick, cream-colored, official letterhead, National Association of Technology Innovation. I opened it with trembling hands. "Dear Miss Whitfield, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as a recipient of the National Technology Achievement Award for your leadership in critical infrastructure protection." I read it 3 times. The ceremony would be held in Washington, D.C., nationally televised, black tie. My infrastructure project, the one that had kept systems running when everything else was falling apart, had been nominated by Marcus Chen. This award went to industry leaders, CEOs, founders, visionaries, not glorified secretaries, not invisible daughters, not women whose fathers called their work unimportant. I picked up my phone and called Melissa. I got invited to an award ceremony, National Technology Achievement. It'll be on TV. "Oh my God, Ashley, that's incredible. I want you to come." "Mom too, and Dad, if he can get permission to travel." A pause. "Are you sure? They've never seen what I actually do, who I actually am." It's time they did. I called Eleanor next. "Grandma, how do you feel about a trip to Washington?" Her laugh came through the phone, warm and proud. "Child, I've been waiting 70 years to see you shine. I wouldn't miss it for the world." I looked at the invitation in my hand. Not revenge, not proof, just truth. It was time for my family to see who I really was, and this time, the whole country would be watching. I woke in a hotel room I didn't recognize. 14-foot ceilings, crystal chandelier, windows overlooking the Washington Monument, the Willard Intercontinental, blocks from the White House, where presidents had stayed and history had been made. For a moment I couldn't remember why I was there. Then it hit me. Today was the day. February 15th, the National Technology Achievement Awards. The ceremony that would be broadcast to millions of people across the country. The night my family would finally see who I really was. I lay there watching morning light creep across the ceiling, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. 6 weeks since Christmas. 6 weeks since a $2 lottery ticket and 25 people laughing. 6 weeks since my world collapsed and rebuilt itself into something I barely recognized. My dress hung in the closet. Deep navy, elegant, powerful. I had chosen it myself, no stylist, no consultant. I had spent 34 years being dressed by other people's expectations. Not today. I checked my phone. Messages had accumulated overnight. Melissa, who had arrived yesterday with the rest of the family, can't sleep, too excited. Is that weird? My mother, in a separate room down the hall. "Good morning, sweetheart. So proud of you." Marcus Chen. "See you tonight. You've earned this." Nothing from my father. George had arrived the day before with special court permission, his first time leaving California since the arrest. He hadn't spoken to me since we landed. I didn't know what that silence meant. Maybe he didn't either. I played Eleanor's voicemail next. She had left it at 5 a.m, unable to sleep. "Couldn't sleep either," her voice said through the phone. "Old women and their thoughts. I want you to know something, child. Whatever happens tonight, you've already won. You won the day you stopped waiting for them to see you. The award is just the world catching up. I love you. Go shine." I played it twice, saved it to a folder I would keep forever. Then I got up and started preparing for the most important night of my life. Brunch was at 11 in the hotel restaurant, a private table in the corner, away from prying eyes. Eleanor arrived first, pushed in her wheelchair by an attendant I had hired for the trip. She wore a new outfit I had bought her, emerald green, that brought out the fire still burning in her eyes despite her 91 years. "You look beautiful, Grandma." "You're biased," she said, but smiled. My mother came next, wearing a blue dress I recognized from 20 years of family photos. "It's my lucky dress," she explained when she caught me looking. She had worn it to every important occasion for as long as I could remember. Melissa arrived last, pregnancy showing now at 6 months. She practically glowed, despite everything, or maybe because of everything, new life growing even as the old life crumbled around her. Then George appeared. He stood at the edge of our table, uncertain of his place, the patriarch who had lost his throne. He wore a suit I didn't recognize, probably borrowed or rented, since most of his good clothes had been sold along with the house. He looked smaller than I remembered, older, but also somehow clearer, like a man who had finally stopped pretending. We sat together, this broken, reassembling family, and tried to make conversation. Karen talked about the flight, the hotel, how she had never been to Washington before. Melissa shared that the baby had kicked that morning, the first time she had felt it. Eleanor watched everything with sharp eyes, missing nothing. George remained quiet, picking at his food, glancing at me when he thought I wasn't looking. The waiter approached. "Can I get you anything else, Miss Whitfield?" The name landed differently here. In Sacramento, Whitfield had always meant George's car dealership, his reputation, his family. In Washington, Whitfield meant me, my achievement, my recognition. I saw my father flinch at the shift. I pretended not to notice. Finally, George spoke. "Ashley, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Dad. But I want to. I just don't have the words. Maybe they'll come. Give it time." He nodded, grateful for the grace I wasn't sure I felt. We finished brunch in something approaching peace. Not reconciliation, not yet. But perhaps the first steps toward something none of us could name. I returned to my suite to prepare. Hair appointment at 1, makeup at 2. The ceremony started at 6. 4 hours to transform into the woman the world would see tonight. I was brushing my teeth when a knock came at the door. Melissa stood in the hallway, still in her casual clothes. "Can I help you get ready?" The question surprised me. We had never done this before, never shared the rituals that sisters were supposed to share. I stepped aside and let her in. The hairstylist arrived, then the makeup artist. Melissa sat on the bed and watched, occasionally offering opinions, mostly just being present. It felt strange and familiar at the same time, like remembering a song I had heard in childhood but never learned the words to. By 4 o'clock, the transformation was complete. Hair in an elegant updo, makeup subtle but polished, dress fitted perfectly. I stood in front of the full-length mirror and didn't recognize the woman looking back. "Is it too much?" I asked Melissa. "It's not enough." She came to stand beside me. "You look powerful." First time she had ever used that word about me. We studied our reflections together. 2 women, same blood, different wounds. We look like Mom, I realized, before she forgot how to be herself. Melissa reached into her purse and pulled out something small, a jewelry box. I brought something. Inside lay a simple pearl necklace, classic and elegant and obviously old. "Grandma Eleanor gave this to me when I graduated high school," Melissa said. "I think she wanted to give it to you. I think she wanted me to give it to you." I couldn't accept. The gift was too significant. The gesture too loaded with meaning. "Melissa, I can't. Please. It should be yours tonight." She moved behind me and clasped the necklace around my neck. The pearls lay cool against my skin. 3 generations. Eleanor's pearls, given through Melissa, worn by me. One moment containing decades of complicated history. "I'm sorry," Melissa whispered. "I know. And I'm sorry too. For things I didn't even know I needed to apologize for." We stood there in the mirror, 2 sisters finally seeing each other clearly. Not enemies, not rivals. Just 2 women who had survived the same family in different ways. The National Building Museum was unlike anything I had ever seen. Massive Corinthian columns soaring 8 stories toward a glass ceiling. Red carpet stretching from the entrance to the grand hall. Photographers lined up behind velvet ropes, cameras flashing like lightning. Town cars pulled up one after another, depositing tech titans and government officials and industry leaders whose names I had read about for years. Our vehicle stopped at the carpet entrance. I took a breath, then stepped out into the light. "Miss Whitfield, over here." Miss Whitfield, How does it feel to be honored tonight? Cameras swung toward me. Flashbulbs exploded. I paused, smiled, gave them what they wanted. It feels like a long time coming. I thought about Christmas, the lottery ticket, the laughter. Now cameras capturing me as an honoree. The universe has a strange sense of humor. But so do I. My family followed behind me. Eleanor in her wheelchair, pushed by her attendant. Melissa and Karen flanking George, who looked overwhelmed by the attention. We made our way inside together, leaving the red carpet chaos behind. The venue's interior took my breath away. 500 people in formal attire, crystal chandeliers casting warm light over everything, waiters circulating with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. I recognized faces from magazine covers and business news, CEOs I had emailed but never met, founders whose products I used daily. And there, cutting through the crowd toward me, Marcus Chen in a perfect tuxedo, grinning like a proud father. "You made it," he said. "Wouldn't miss it. I told you, you've earned this." He turned to my family, shaking hands with practiced warmth. "You must be George. Your daughter is the best program manager I've ever worked with." My father blinked at the praise. "Thank you." Yes, she is. First time he had acknowledged my work to someone outside the family. First time he had said anything positive about my career at all. I filed it away, uncertain what it meant. We were led to our table near the front of the room. Honoré positioning. Around us sat the other award recipients and their guests. Industry leaders, government officials, people who had changed the world in visible ways. And my family, a disgraced father on probation, a recovering mother finding her voice, a rebuilding sister learning to stand alone, and a grandmother who had believed in me before anyone else. We don't belong here, I thought. Then corrected myself. I belong here. They're my guests. The ceremony began at 7. Opening remarks from the association president. 2 awards presented before mine, with video tributes and speeches and standing ovations. I barely heard any of it. My heart pounded so loud I was certain the entire room could hear. Then the moment came. Our next honoree represents the unsung heroes of our industry. The screen behind the stage flickered to life. A documentary-style video began playing. I hadn't seen this beforehand. Didn't know what to expect. Marcus appeared on screen first. Ashley Whitfield is the person who makes everyone else look good and takes none of the credit. Engineers from my team followed. When the system almost crashed last year, she was the one who held it together, 60 hours straight. The VP of engineering, the same man who had questioned whether I was a liability just weeks ago. Without her leadership, 100 million users would have lost service. She prevented a crisis no one even knows about. Photos of me at work appeared, in meetings, at whiteboards, leading teams through impossible deadlines. Statistics scrolled across the screen. Projects managed, systems protected, disasters averted. I watched my professional life summarized in 3 minutes of footage and felt something I couldn't name. Not pride exactly. Something deeper, recognition. I watched the video, but I also watched my father. From the corner of my eye, I tracked the transformation on his face. When the tribute began, he looked confused, uncertain what he was seeing. As the accolades accumulated, confusion became shock. As the scope of my achievements became clear, shock became something that looked like shame. He was finally seeing. After 34 years of dismissing my work as secretary stuff, he was finally seeing who his daughter really was. The video ended with my professional headshot and the words, "For extraordinary leadership in critical infrastructure protection." The room erupted in applause. 500 people rose to their feet. At my table, Eleanor wept openly, making no attempt to hide her tears. Karen's hands pressed against her mouth. Melissa beamed through her own tears. And George stood slowly, clapping mechanically, his face still processing what he had witnessed. I walked to the stage on unsteady legs. The crystal award was placed in my hands. Heavy, solid, real. I approached the microphone and looked out at 500 faces looking back at me, including the 4 that mattered most. "Thank you," I began. "I wrote something prepared, but I'm going to speak from the heart instead." I paused, breathed. I spent 34 years explaining my work to people who didn't want to understand, explaining my value to people who had already decided I had none, explaining myself to a world that preferred I remain invisible. My eyes found George in the audience. I held his gaze. "About a month ago, I stopped explaining. Not because my work doesn't matter. You can see from that video that it does, but because I realized something. My worth isn't determined by who acknowledges it. My value doesn't depend on who's paying attention. I am who I am whether anyone sees me or not." The words came easily now. This award is an honor, but it's not validation. I didn't need the world to tell me I was good at what I do. I already knew. What I needed was to believe it myself. That took longer. I looked at Eleanor. "Some people will see you. Find those people. Hold on to them." At Melissa. "Some people will learn to see you. Give them the chance." At George and Karen. "And some people may never see you. That's not your failure, it's theirs. Thank you for this award. Thank you for seeing me tonight. But most importantly, thank you to me for finally seeing myself." Silence held the room for one heartbeat. Then applause crashed over me like a wave. 500 people on their feet. Standing ovation. But I only saw one face. My father, still standing, tears streaming down his cheeks. First time I had ever seen him cry. The reception afterward blurred into a stream of handshakes and business cards and offers I couldn't process. Everyone wanted something from me now. Attention, partnership, investment, the same woman they would have ignored a year ago. Marcus found me during a brief moment alone. "That speech will be on every tech blog by morning. Is that good or bad?" "It's honest. That's always good." "Thank you, Marcus, for nominating me, for believing in me. I didn't nominate you because I believe in you. I nominated you because you earned it. There's a difference." He disappeared into the crowd. I moved through the reception like a sleepwalker, shaking hands, accepting praise, counting the minutes until I could escape. A man approached my father near the bar. I recognized him immediately, the CEO of one of the largest tech companies in the world. "Excuse me," he said to George, "you're at the Whitfield table. Are you Ashley Whitfield's father?" George straightened, some of his old pride surfacing. "Yes, I am. You must be incredibly proud." "That video. Your daughter prevented a national crisis. Did you know that?" George's voice cracked when he answered, "No, I didn't." "Well, now you do. You raised an extraordinary woman." The CEO walked away. George stood alone, drink untouched, staring at the floor. I watched from across the room but didn't approach. Not yet. Later I found Eleanor in a quiet corner. "Grandma, how are you holding up? Tired? Happy?" "Tired." She smiled. "That speech, Harold would have loved it. I thought about him when I wrote it. I could tell." She took my hand. "You did it, child. You really did it." "Did what?" "Became yourself. In front of everyone." The reception was winding down when George found me in a quiet alcove away from the remaining crowd. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Somewhere quiet?" We stepped further into the alcove. The noise of the party faded behind us. "Ashley, that video, that speech, I had no idea. I know. All those years I called it secretary work. I called it paper pushing. I had no idea what you actually do. I know, Dad. Why didn't you tell me?" "I did. You weren't listening." The silence between us was heavy with 34 years of distance. Then George took a breath and said something I didn't expect. "There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you 30 years ago." My mother appeared at the alcove entrance. "George, what are you doing?" "Patricia, she needs to know. They both need to know." Karen's face went pale. "Not here, not tonight." "Yes, tonight. I'm done hiding." I looked between my parents, confusion and anticipation warring in my chest. "What are you talking about?" George turned to me, eyes red, voice breaking. The reason I've treated you differently your whole life. The reason I couldn't look at you the same way I looked at Melissa. It wasn't because you weren't good enough. Then why? Because every time I looked at you, I saw my greatest failure staring back at me. And I've been punishing you for it ever since. What failure? Karen reached for his arm. George, please, I need to tell her about Harold, about what I did, about why he never forgave me, and why I've never forgiven myself. The noise of the reception faded to nothing. My world narrowed to my father's haunted face. Tell me everything. My parents and I rode the elevator to my hotel suite in silence. The distance from the reception hall to the 14th floor felt like miles. Karen stood rigid against the back wall, arms wrapped around herself. George stared at the floor, hands trembling at his sides. I watched the numbers climb and tried to prepare myself for whatever was coming. The door to my suite clicked open. I turned on the lights and gestured them inside. The room that had felt luxurious this morning now felt like a stage, a place where the final act of a very long play was about to unfold. I didn't offer drinks. Didn't offer comfort. Sit down, I said. Both of you. They sat on the couch like children waiting to be disciplined. The crystal award from the ceremony still sat in my bag. Harold's letter was in my suitcase. I remained standing. The power dynamics were clear. George took a long breath and began. When you were born, I was 29 years old. I had just lost my job at the manufacturing plant. 3rd layoff in 2 years. I hadn't known this. No one had ever told me. We were about to lose the apartment, he continued. Your mother was recovering from a difficult delivery. Melissa was 4, needed things. And I had nothing. No savings, no prospects, no plan. He paused, gathering himself. I went to Harold, your grandfather. I begged him for money. He gave you $100,000, I said. I know, Eleanor told me. George's head snapped up. She told you? She told me a lot of things. Silence stretched between us. He was recalculating, adjusting his story to account for what I already knew. What Eleanor may not have told you, he finally said, is what Harold demanded in return. He wanted you to repay it. That wasn't all. George's voice dropped. He wanted control. Control of what? Everything. Our finances, our decisions. He said I had proven I couldn't manage money. He wanted veto power over every major purchase, every investment, every decision. Did you agree? I had no choice. We would have been homeless. For 10 years, George explained, Harold reviewed their finances monthly. Every purchase over $500 required his approval. Every investment decision went through him. I felt like a child, George said. A grown man with 2 daughters, and my father-in-law treated me like a teenager with an allowance. That must have been humiliating, I said. It was, but I deserved it. Why? George's face crumbled. The composure he had maintained since the elevator finally broke, because the reason I lost those jobs, the reason we were broke, wasn't bad luck. It was gambling. Karen closed her eyes. This part still hurt her, even after all these years. I had a problem, George continued. Poker, blackjack, sports betting. I hid it from everyone except Harold. He figured it out when I asked for the loan. He knew you were a gambler. He knew I was an addict. That's why he insisted on the controls. He was protecting his daughter and grandchildren from me. The words hung in the air. My father, the confident patriarch, the man who had dismissed my achievements my entire life, was a gambling addict who had nearly destroyed his family before I could even remember. George looked at me directly for the first time since we entered the room. You were born 6 weeks after I made that deal with Harold, and from the moment you could walk, you were his shadow. I remember, I said. He taught me to garden, to read, to love quiet things. You were exactly like him. Quiet, watchful, smart in ways I couldn't understand. And that bothered you. It terrified me. Every time I looked at you, I saw him, judging me, knowing I was a failure, knowing I would never be good enough. So you hated me. I didn't hate you. I just couldn't love you the way you deserved. Every accomplishment of yours reminded me of him. Every success was proof that you were his, not mine. Something cracked inside me, not my heart breaking, something else, understanding forming. I couldn't hate Harold, George continued. He saved us. I couldn't hate your mother. She had given up everything to stay with me. So you transferred it onto me. I transferred it onto you. And I've been doing it for 34 years. I turned to my mother. You knew all this? Karen nodded, tears streaming down her face. I knew. I've always known. And you said nothing. For 34 years. I chose peace over truth. I thought if I kept things smooth, eventually it would get better. It never got better. No, it got worse. And by the time I realized, I didn't know how to stop it. She took a shaky breath. When you were 10, your father wanted to leave. The words hit like a physical blow. Leave? Divorce? He said he couldn't stand living under Harold's shadow anymore. Couldn't stand looking at you and seeing his own shame. What stopped him? Karen's voice broke. I begged. I told him the girls needed their father. I told him we could make it work. And the price was what? I stopped defending you. I stopped pointing out how unfair he was being. I let him treat you however he wanted as long as he stayed. The room spun slightly. My mother had traded my well-being for her marriage. You sacrificed me. I sacrificed all of us. I just didn't see it then. Did Melissa know? Melissa was the compensation. The more your father pulled away from you, the more he invested in her. I let it happen because at least one of my daughters had his love. You made her the golden child to balance out making me the scapegoat. Karen nodded, sobbing. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I walked to the window. The Washington Monument glowed white against the night sky. The same city where I had just received a national award. The same night I was learning that my entire childhood had been shaped by my father's gambling addiction and my mother's cowardice. I could rage. I could scream. I could throw them out of this room and never speak to them again. I didn't do any of those things. Something Harold had written in his letter came back to me. Don't let it harden your heart, but don't let it make you small either. I turned back to my parents. Both watched me, terrified of what I might say. Thank you for telling me. George's voice was raw. That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? That I forgive you? I don't know if I can. That I understand? I'm trying to. That this changes everything? It doesn't. What happened, happened. Knowing why doesn't undo it. But I will say this. You've both spent 34 years carrying this secret. That must have been exhausting. It was, Karen whispered. I'm not going to carry it for you. The shame is yours. The guilt is yours. I'm done being the container for everyone else's pain. George looked up at me. What does that mean? It means I'm not your redemption project. You want forgiveness? Earn it. Not from me, from yourselves. I went to my suitcase and pulled out Harold's letter, the one he had left with the bonds, the one Eleanor had given me on New Year's Eve. There's something you should see, I said. I handed it to George. Harold left me this, along with bonds worth $150,000. His hands trembled as he unfolded the paper. I watched his face as he read. The quiet ones see everything. I've watched you grow, watched how they overlook you. This money is yours. I didn't tell your father because he would have found a way to spend it. George's face contorted as he reached the end. He knew, he said. He always knew what I was doing to you. And he protected me anyway, even after death. George set the letter down and covered his face with both hands. The sobs that came were not quiet tears. They were body-shaking grief, decades of shame finally breaking through. He loved me, George said through his hands. Despite everything I did, he still loved me. He gave me the loan. He saved our family. He did. And I repaid him by destroying his granddaughter's childhood. You didn't destroy me, Dad. You delayed me. But I'm here now. George looked up, face ravaged by emotion. How can you say that? After everything? Because I'm not you. I don't need to break things to feel whole. Karen picked up the letter next. Read it slowly. He mentions George by name, she said quietly. I didn't tell your father because he would have found a way to spend it. Harold knew exactly who George was, and he still chose to help. He didn't do it for George. He did it for us. For you girls. I know, that's what real love looks like. It protects even when it's not appreciated. A knock at the door interrupted us. I opened it to find Melissa standing in the hallway, pajamas visible under her hotel robe. I saw Mom and Dad come up hours ago, she said. Is everything okay? I looked back at my parents, both wrecked and exhausted from the weight of confession. Come in. You should hear this too. Melissa sat down, and I summarized everything. The loan, Harold's conditions, George's gambling, Karen's bargain. With each revelation, Melissa's face transformed. By the end, she looked like someone waking from a very long sleep. You're saying I was only the favorite because Ashley reminded Dad of his failures? In a sense. So it was never about me being better. It was about her being too much like someone he resented. That's what they're telling me. Melissa turned to George. Do you know what this cost me? What do you mean? Being the favorite. Carrying your approval. I married Derek because he reminded me of you. Charming, confident, full of promises. And look where that got me. Melissa, you taught me that love looks like investment, like money, like grand gestures. And now I'm pregnant, alone, and starting over at 38. George had no defense. We're all victims here, Dad, Melissa said quietly. All three of your women, you just couldn't see it. We talked until we couldn't anymore. Around 4 a.m, George and Karen finally left. Melissa stayed, falling asleep on my couch. I couldn't sleep at all. I stood at the window watching Washington wake up. The Crystal Award sat on the desk, Harold's letter beside it. In 12 hours, I had received a national award and learned my entire childhood was collateral damage from my father's addiction and my mother's fear. I should feel destroyed. I didn't. I felt something unexpected. Free. I'm not crazy. I wasn't imagining it. It was real. And now I know why. Knowledge is a strange kind of healing. It doesn't fix the wound, but it names it. My phone buzzed at 5:47. Email notification, FBI seal on the header. Subject line, Whitfield Investment Partners. Plea agreement finalized. I opened it and read quickly. Derek had accepted a plea deal. In exchange for reduced charges, he had provided full documentation of all investors and co-conspirators. A list was attached. I scrolled down. George Whitfield. Name highlighted. Full cooperation recommended. Sentencing hearing scheduled March 15th. I looked at my sleeping sister, thought of my parents, probably just now arriving at their hotel room. The night of confessions wasn't over. George's secrets were about to become public record, and in 4 weeks the whole world would know what he did. The federal courthouse in Sacramento looked different in March than it had in January, less threatening somehow, or maybe I had changed. I pulled into the parking lot at 8:45, 15 minutes early for my father's sentencing hearing. The same route I had driven 100 times in the past 2 months. Sacramento had become familiar in ways I never expected. A city I had once associated only with childhood disappointment was now the place where my family was slowly, painfully learning to tell the truth. My mother waited on the courthouse steps, clutching her purse the way she always did when she was nervous. Melissa stood beside her, pregnancy obvious now at 7 months. Neither of them had slept well. I could see it in their faces. But they were here. We all were. My father was already inside with his lawyer, preparing for whatever came next. Eleanor couldn't make the trip. She was watching via video link from her new facility in Carmel. I had arranged the technology myself. She deserved to see this, even if seeing it would break her heart. Rebecca Chen stood near the courthouse entrance, professional and composed. "Whatever happens," she said as I approached, "you've done everything you could, have I? More than most would." We entered the courtroom together, a family walking into judgment. George sat at the defendant's table in the suit he had worn to Melissa's wedding, the same suit he had worn to my award ceremony in Washington, the only nice suit he had left, since most of his clothes had been sold with the house. He looked smaller than I remembered, older, but also somehow clearer. 3 months of therapy, 90 support group meetings, community service hours already started even before sentencing. He turned when we entered, saw his family filing into the gallery behind him, nodded once, then turned back to face the judge's bench. The proceedings began at 10. Judge Margaret Sullivan presiding. The prosecutor summarized the case in clinical language that stripped away everything human. Wire fraud, securities fraud, conspiracy, 8 families defrauded, $600,000 in losses. George Whitfield, recruiter, co-architect, 30% beneficiary. I listened to my father's crimes cataloged as federal charges and felt strangely distant. This was history now. The story of what had happened. What mattered was what would happen next. The judge asked if the defendant wished to make a statement. George's lawyer had advised him to speak. He stood on unsteady legs and faced Judge Sullivan. His voice, when it came, was quieter than I had ever heard it. "I have no excuses, Your Honor. I made choices that hurt people who trusted me. Friends I've known for 30 years. Family I should have protected. I can't undo what I did. But I can spend whatever time I have left trying to make it right. No deflection, no blame shifting, just accountability." He disclosed the gambling addiction that had started everything, the therapy he had committed to, the restitution already begun, full acceptance of responsibility. I watched my father do something I had never seen him do before, take ownership of his failures without trying to minimize them. The prosecutor stood next. "The government acknowledges Mr. Whitfield's full cooperation," she said. "His testimony was instrumental in securing Mr. Lawson's conviction. His immediate restitution efforts have been unusually thorough. I knew what that meant. My money, the investor repayment fund I had established. Every cent returned to every family George had recruited. $300,000 of my lottery winnings, given as a loan to my father that he would spend years repaying." In light of these factors, the prosecutor continued, "The government recommends sentencing at the lower end of guidelines." Judge Sullivan reviewed her notes for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. "Mr. Whitfield," she finally said, "you betrayed the trust of your community. That cannot be overlooked." My mother gripped my hand. Melissa held her breath. "However," the judge continued, "I also see genuine remorse and substantial efforts toward restitution. The sentence, 5 years probation, 500 hours community service, continued therapy, forfeiture of any remaining fraud proceeds. No prison." My mother sobbed with relief. Melissa exhaled like she had been holding her breath for months. I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief I didn't know I needed. George turned to his family, tears streaming down his cheeks, mouthed, "Thank you." I nodded, couldn't speak. Whatever came next, this chapter was closed. Derek's sentencing had happened 2 weeks earlier. I didn't attend, had no reason to, but I followed the news. 7 years federal prison, $2.3 million in restitution ordered, money that would never be paid because Derek had nothing left. Additional charges pending in 3 other states. The Golden Boy reduced to an inmate number. Melissa had told me about it over the phone. "I felt nothing," she said. "I thought I'd feel satisfied, vindicated, something." "What did you feel?" "Empty, and then free, like a door finally closed. That's grief, for the person you thought he was." "I guess so. I'm just glad it's over." Derek had sent one letter from prison. Not to apologize, to blame. "Melissa showed it to me when I visited. You ruined my life by bringing your family into my business. Can you believe this?" I could. People like Derek never accepted responsibility. That was what made them dangerous. That was what made them who they were. Melissa threw the letter in the trash without responding. I'm done reading his words. The final chapter of that particular story, closed forever. The months that followed blurred together in a strange mix of endings and beginnings. My work at Google stabilized. The reduced visibility status quietly lifted as the news cycle moved on to other scandals. Marcus promoted me to principal program manager in April. "You've earned it," he said. "Scandal or no scandal." I accepted. Negotiated equity for the first time in my career. Asked for what I was worth instead of accepting what was offered. Other companies came calling, 3 VP offers, 2 C-suite positions. "Your award speech went viral," one recruiter told me. "Everyone wants you." I declined them all. "I'm not done here yet." Marcus smiled when I told him, "That's exactly why you should stay." The foundation I had dreamed about since January finally launched in May. The Grace Eleanor Foundation, $10 million initial endowment. Purpose: scholarships for women in STEM from unsupportive backgrounds. Women who were told their dreams weren't practical, whose families didn't see their value, whose voices weren't heard, named for my grandmother and for Grace itself. The first scholarship recipient was announced in June, a young engineer from rural Oregon whose parents had told her computer science was a waste of time. I read her thank you letter 3 times and cried at my kitchen table. This is the real inheritance, I thought. Not money, not houses, belief, passed forward. Melissa's transformation happened slowly, then all at once. Her divorce was finalized in April. I paid for the lawyer, but nothing else. "You need to build this yourself," I told her. "I'll support you, not carry you." She found a job in May, administrative assistant at a medical practice. Entry level, humbling, nothing like the life of luxury she had lived with Derek. "I have to start somewhere," she said. She moved into a small apartment in San Jose near mine, first time living alone in her adult life. We had dinner once a week. Really talked, not the surface conversations we had managed before. "I don't know who I am without someone taking care of me," she admitted one evening. "That's the point of this time. To find out." The sister I had resented for 34 years was becoming someone I actually wanted to know, not because she had changed into a different person, because she was finally becoming herself. In June, I moved Eleanor to Seaside Memory Care in Carmel, smaller than the Sacramento facility. Warmer, ocean view from her window, garden below where other residents tended flowers in the California sun. "You're spending too much on me," she protested when I showed her the room. "I'm spending exactly enough." The drive from San Jose to Carmel took 2 hours. I made it every weekend. Sometimes Eleanor recognized me immediately. Sometimes she didn't know who I was until I reminded her. The disease was progressing, stealing pieces of her mind day by day. But on good days, she was sharp as ever, full of stories and wisdom and the particular brand of honesty that only comes with age. "It looks like Harold's garden," she said on her first day in the new room, looking out the window at the flowers below. "That's why I chose it." Tears she rarely showed slid down her weathered cheeks. "I don't have long, child. You know that. I know. But whatever time you have will be beautiful. It already is. Because of you." On another visit, she told me George had come to see her. "Your father came yesterday," she said. "Did he?" Cried the whole time. Apologized for things I'd forgotten he'd done. How did that feel? Like watching a man finally grow up. At 63. She paused. Better late than never, I suppose. September arrived with a heat wave that broke the day before my housewarming party. I had bought a house in spring, modest by lottery winner standards. 3 bedrooms, small yard, tucked into the hills above San Jose. Not a mansion, not a statement, just a home. The first home that was truly mine. I spent the summer making it comfortable, painting walls, choosing furniture, planting a garden in the backyard. The physical work of building a life, not just surviving one. The party was scheduled for a Saturday evening. First time my whole family would gather in my space. On my terms. I cooked for 2 days beforehand. Nothing fancy, just food I knew how to make. Food that felt like home, or like what home should have felt like. My mother arrived first with George. They drove down from Sacramento together. from the small apartment they had rented after selling the house. Downsizing had been hard for them, harder for George than Karen, but they were adjusting. George carried a casserole dish. "Your mother made it," he said. "I just carried it." Karen hugged me tight. "This house is beautiful," she said. "Harold chose well." I didn't correct her, didn't explain that the house had nothing to do with Harold's gift. That gift was still waiting, a property in Carmel I hadn't visited yet, deliberately saved for my birthday next month. George looked around my home, taking in the details. "He always knew who deserved what," he said quietly. Not bitter, just acknowledging a truth he had spent decades denying. Melissa arrived next, and when she walked through the door, she wasn't alone. In her arms was a car seat. Inside the car seat, swaddled in pink, was a newborn baby, 2 weeks old, perfect and tiny and impossible. "Everyone, meet Eleanor Rose," Melissa announced. The room went silent. I felt something catch in my throat. "You named her..." "After Grandma. And for new beginnings. Rose, because things can grow from anything." I held my niece for the first time, her tiny fingers wrapped around mine, gripping with surprising strength. This is what family could be, I thought. What it should have been. We ate dinner together in my small dining room. Conversation flowed, not easy but not forced either. Karen told stories about her garden club. George talked about his community service, mentoring at-risk youth at a local center. "Turns out I'm good with teenagers who've made bad choices," he said. "Takes one to know one." First joke I had heard him make about himself. First sign that the man I had known was becoming someone different. After dinner, George helped me clear plates. He stood beside me at the sink, silent for a long moment. "I want to say something," he finally said, "and I need you to let me finish." I nodded, kept washing dishes. "I'm proud of you, not because of the award, not because of the lottery. I'm proud of who you are, who you've always been. I was too broken to see it, but you were always the strongest one in this family." I set down the dish I was holding. "Thank you. I know it doesn't fix anything. It doesn't. But it means something. It means you're trying. I am. I'm going to keep trying." I nodded, returned to the dishes. No hug, no tears, just truth. That was enough. The guests left by 9. George and Karen driving back to Sacramento. Melissa taking baby Eleanor home to her apartment nearby. The house went quiet. I stood in my garden, twilight settling over the hills, and thought about everything that had brought me here. 1 year since Christmas. Everything different. Nothing fixed. But something healing. My father would never be the father I deserved. My mother would never be the mother I needed. But they were trying. All of them. And I had stopped waiting for them to be different. I checked my mail on the way back inside. Bills, junk, charity requests, and one envelope that made me stop breathing. Thick. Cream-colored, law firm letterhead, Chen and Associates, Estate Division. I opened it with trembling hands. "Dear Miss Whitfield, pursuant to the terms of the Harold Mitchell Trust, we are writing to inform you of a clause that activates upon your 35th birthday. My birthday was next month, October 15th, a property located in Carmel, California, valued at approximately $2 million. A house. Harold had left me a house. There was another envelope inside. Smaller. Sealed. Harold's handwriting on the front. To be opened on your 35th birthday. Not before. I held it in my hands. This final gift from a grandfather who had seen me when no one else did. Whatever it contained, he had wanted me to have it at exactly the right time. Harold always did have perfect timing. I woke on October 15th to morning light streaming through my bedroom window, 35 years old. The number felt significant in a way other birthdays hadn't. Not because of the age itself, but because of what waited on my nightstand. Harold's letter, still unopened, sealed for 10 years, saved for this exact day. I had kept it there for 3 weeks since the law firm's notification arrived. Every night I looked at it before falling asleep. Every morning I looked at it before getting up, waiting, honoring his instructions. Today was the day. I made coffee first, watered my plants, let Clover out into the backyard and watched her chase squirrels she would never catch. My rescue dog, a golden retriever mix with a crooked ear and boundless enthusiasm, had been with me for 2 months now. She didn't care that I was a millionaire, didn't care about the headlines or the family drama or any of it. She just wanted to be near me. That kind of love was worth more than any lottery jackpot. I returned to my bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. The envelope lay where I had left it, Harold's handwriting on the front, to be opened on your 35th birthday, not before. 1 year ago, I hadn't known this letter existed. 1 year ago, I was driving to my parents' house with handmade scarves, expecting nothing, receiving exactly that. A $2 lottery ticket and 25 people laughing. Everything had changed since then. Everything except this envelope. "Okay, Grandpa," I said to the empty room. "Let's see what you have to say." The seal broke easily despite its age. Inside were 3 pages, handwritten, dated 10 years ago. Harold's precise handwriting, familiar from the first letter Eleanor had given me on New Year's Eve. I unfolded the pages and began to read. "My dearest Ashley," the letter began. "If you're reading this, I'm gone, and you've turned 35. I chose this age for a reason. By 35, most people know who they are. They've stopped pretending. They've stopped waiting for permission to be themselves. I've watched you grow from a quiet child into a quiet woman. I know your father doesn't understand you. I know your mother can't protect you. I know your sister has been given everything you were denied. None of this is fair. None of this is your fault. But here's what I also know. You are the strongest person in that family. Not because you're loud or demanding, because you endure, because you see, because you love even when love isn't returned." I stopped reading, wiped my eyes, continued. "I bought a house in Carmel 40 years ago, when your grandmother and I were young. We spent our happiest summers there. After she passed, I couldn't bear to visit, but I couldn't sell it either. This house is now yours. Not because you need it, though I suspect you might appreciate a place to breathe. It's yours because you earned it. Every silent dinner, every dismissed achievement, every time you chose kindness over bitterness. You earned this." The final paragraph blurred through my tears. "I won't tell you what to do with your life. You've never needed anyone to tell you that. But I will tell you this. The quiet ones see everything. We notice what others miss. We carry what others drop. And in the end, we're the ones who matter most. Be happy, Ashley, not for anyone else, for yourself. You deserve it. All my love, forever. Grandpa Harold." I read it 3 times, then held it against my chest and cried. Not sad tears, something else, relief, recognition, being seen across time and death by someone who had understood me completely. The drive to Carmel took 2 hours. Clover sat in the passenger seat, nose out the window, tail wagging at every new smell. Highway 1 wound along the coast, Pacific Ocean appearing and disappearing around curves. I drove in silence. No music, no podcasts. Just the road and my thoughts and the letter tucked safely in my purse. Carmel appeared like something from a postcard. Cypress trees bent by decades of wind. Art galleries and dog-friendly restaurants. A town that felt separate from ordinary life, protected by geography and intention. My GPS announced the arrival before I was ready. I pulled up to a cottage-style house on a quiet street. Shingled roof weathered to silver. Blue shutters faded by salt air. A wildflower garden overgrown but beautiful, waiting for someone to tend it. I parked and sat for a moment, taking it in. 40 years ago, Harold and Eleanor had stood in this same spot, young and in love, beginning their life together. Now it belonged to me. I got out of the car. Clover bounded beside me, immediately investigating every bush and flower. A wooden sign hung by the front door, weathered but readable. Mitchell Cottage. Established 1984. Eleanor's maiden name, Harold's last name. My name now. The key from the law firm was old-fashioned brass, heavy in my palm. The lock was stiff but turned. The door swung open to 40 years of waiting. Dust motes danced in the light from windows that hadn't been opened in a decade. White sheets covered the furniture like ghosts of memories. But beneath the neglect, I could see what this place had been, what it could be again. The kitchen had an ocean view, the living room, a stone fireplace, 3 bedrooms upstairs with sloped ceilings and original hardwood floors. In the master bedroom, I found a framed photograph on the dresser. Harold and Eleanor, young and laughing, standing in front of this very house. My grandmother I barely remembered. My grandfather who remembered everything. The garden behind the house took my breath away, overgrown but recognizable. Tomato cages rusted but standing, rose bushes wild but blooming. He had gardened here too, just like the garden where he taught me to plant, where he taught me to tend, where he taught me that quiet things can grow. I found a guest book on the kitchen counter. Leather-bound, dusty. Mitchell Cottage Visitors. The first entry was dated June 1984. Harold and Eleanor Mitchell. First weekend in our new home. The last entry was August 2014, the year he died. Harold Mitchell. Saying goodbye for now. Saving hello for later. He had known, even then, preparing for this day. I picked up the pen beside the book and wrote the next entry. Ashley Whitfield. October 15th, 2024. Coming home. Eleanor's new facility was 20 minutes from the cottage. I had chosen it specifically for this proximity, though I hadn't told her why. Hadn't told anyone about the house until I knew it was real. I found her in the sunroom, wheelchair facing the window, watching other residents tend the garden below. A good day. She recognized me immediately. "Birthday girl," she said, reaching for my hands. "Come here, let me look at you." I sat beside her and pulled out my phone, showed her photos of the cottage, the garden, the view. "Grandma, I have something to show you." Her eyes widened as she swiped through the images. Her hand covered her mouth. "That's Harold's house. Our house. It's my house now." He left it to me. Eleanor wept openly. Not sad tears, joyful ones. "He told me," she said through her crying. "Years ago, he told me he was saving it for you." "You knew?" "I knew he had a plan. I didn't know when." She took my hand, grip still strong despite her 91 years. "Promise me something. Anything. Be happy there. Don't just own it, live in it, fill it with laughter. That's what Harold would have wanted. I promise. And bring that baby to visit. Eleanor Rose needs to see the ocean." "I will, Grandma. I'll bring everyone, even your father?" I paused. "Even him. Eventually." Eleanor smiled, the same smile I remembered from childhood. "That's my girl. That's Harold's girl." 1 year later, I stood in the kitchen of the Carmel cottage on Christmas morning. 12 months since the Christmas that changed everything. 365 days of transformation, loss, healing, and growth. This year, Christmas was at my house. My terms. My space. My rules. The cottage had been renovated over the summer, fresh paint, updated kitchen, the garden restored to its former glory, but I had kept the bones of what Harold and Eleanor built. The character, the warmth, the sense of being somewhere that mattered. My guests arrived throughout the morning, Karen and George first, driving down from their apartment in Sacramento. George carried a casserole dish. Karen hugged me at the door. "This house is perfect," she said. "Harold would be so happy." George looked around at the cottage, at the ocean visible through the windows, at the life I had built independent of his failures and expectations. "He's here," George said quietly. "I can feel him." He meant it kindly. An acknowledgement that Harold's presence lingered in these walls, in the garden, in the woman I had become. Melissa arrived next, and she wasn't alone. Baby Eleanor Rose, 4 months old now, wearing a tiny Christmas dress and gripping a stuffed elephant. "She's so big," I said, taking my niece in my arms. "She eats constantly," Melissa laughed. "Just like her aunt used to, according to Grandma." We set up a video call for Eleanor, propping the iPad in the living room so she could see everything. Her mind drifted in and out these days. More bad days than good. But today was a good day. "Merry Christmas, everyone," she called from the screen. Her voice was thin, but her smile was bright. She could see her family gathered in the house she had loved, in the home Harold had built, in the place that would outlast all of us. Dinner wasn't perfect. It was never going to be perfect. George was awkward, still learning how to be a father without being a patriarch. Karen talked too much, filling silences that didn't need filling. Baby Eleanor cried through the main course and had to be walked around the garden to settle her down. But we were here, together, trying. I watched my family around the table and thought about where we had been a year ago. The $2 lottery ticket, the laughter, the humiliation, the discovery that would change everything. My father had a long way to go, might never fully become the father I deserved. My mother was learning, slowly, to be a person instead of a peacekeeper. My sister was becoming someone I actually wanted to know, and I had stopped waiting for any of them to define my worth. After dinner, I stepped onto the deck alone. The ocean stretched endless and dark before me. Salt air filled my lungs. Stars emerged one by one as twilight deepened into night. Clover lay at my feet, content and warm. I thought about everyone who asks me the same question. Did winning $250 million change your life? The answer always surprises them. No, not really. The money gave me options, freedom, security. But it didn't change who I was. What changed me was a single moment. Standing in my parents' living room, holding a $2 lottery ticket, surrounded by laughter, and choosing finally to stop accepting crumbs. That was the real jackpot, knowing my worth. Everything else followed. I watched the waves crash against the shore below the cottage, thought about everyone watching this story, everyone who has ever felt invisible, everyone who has been the scapegoat, the afterthought, the quiet one who does the work while others take the credit. If you're watching this and you're in a family that doesn't see you, I want you to know something. You don't need $250 million to free yourself. You don't need luck. You don't need a windfall. You don't need anyone's permission. You need one decision: to stop letting other people define your worth. Set your boundaries. Walk away from tables where you're only invited to serve. Build your own table if you have to. The money gave me options, but the power was always mine. I just didn't know it until someone handed me a $2 lottery ticket with a smirk and thought they had put me in my place. They put me in my place, all right, just not the one they expected. I'm Ashley Whitfield, 35 years old, program manager, dog mom, granddaughter, sister, philanthropist, and most importantly, a woman who finally chose herself. That's the real jackpot. Thanks for staying with me through this whole journey. I know it was long, I know it was heavy, but you stayed. That means something to me. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, I see you, I really do. Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. I want to know where you're watching from, what time it is there, what part of this story hit you the hardest. If this resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. There are more stories like this one waiting for you. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, a friend, a sister, a mother who has been overlooked, share it with them. Sometimes we need to know we're not alone. Until next time, remember this: you are worth more than anyone else's opinion. The quiet ones always know their worth, even when no one else does. See you soon. This story is fictionalized for dramatic effect.